Gentlemen, grab your pen and paper and write down 3 things you're grateful for. This is OD on Life. Come get high with us.
Hey everybody, it's Dan O'Donnell here with the OD on a Boss podcast. And today I have with me Johnny FD. I'm just kidding, it's still OD on Life, but you might know Johnny from Travel Like a Boss, his podcast, or johnnyfd.com, where he's been blogging for quite a while. He's also an author. We're going to talk about all of that today. As always, remember you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and the goal of each episode is to give you at least one nugget that you can walk away with and actually apply to your life. So we like to be entertaining and fun, but the main goal is that you can actually use something here. So keep that in mind, get your pen and paper out and take something away and go put it to work in your life. So Johnny, thank you for coming on. We're probably long overdue on this.
Yeah, Dan, thank you so much for having me on the show. I've actually been really looking forward to being on the show, especially because I'm sure we're going to talk about much different things that I talk about normally on other podcasts, and even different things that I've written in my book.
Right. Yeah, I think so. Actually, I have to thank you too, because you're one of the guys that has really kept me encouraged with this podcast and given me some reality checks. Like, hey, why don't you put out an episode a week anyway? Things like that. But you've told me, like, you checked out the one with Anton. Anton, and I got good feedback from you and some other people on that. So it keeps me going, keeps me enthused. And yeah, I was thinking that too, because I know that you'll probably promote this episode, and hopefully the people that are following you can learn some things about you, and we'll take a little bit of a different angle.
Yeah, definitely. I think the reason why I liked listening to the episodes that you had out is you kind of dive deep into different topics than the normal, how did you start making money online, or why did you start traveling? I think, you kind of just, the topics kind of just go elsewhere. And I'm actually kind of really looking forward to talking about that.
Yeah, it's you ever heard that Bruce Lee quote? I don't fear the man who's practiced 10,000 kicks one time. I fear the man that's practiced, what did he say, 10 kicks 1,000 times or something like that. It's really about fundamentals, and I think a lot of times people are looking for the shiny object. What's new? What's exciting? What's the latest trick that's going to maybe work for 6 months, and all that kind of stuff. But really, building your habits and a solid foundation in life is the first step. And then, tricks and tips and hacks are great, but you have to get the other stuff straight first, right?
I was actually just thinking about that on the way over. I was listening to another podcast that Tucker Max was actually on there, the guy that wrote I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell.
Okay.
And it's weird because now he's like a father, and he's kind of grown kind of throughout life, and he was a New York Times bestselling author and all these things. And the kind of tips he was giving was things like, figure out, what qualities that you have that other people don't have. And he was I'm actually only like 5 minutes into that podcast, so I don't know too much about what he's going to say, but he was talking about saying his size and his confidence is something that he was always kind of born with, that other guys sometimes they just don't have it naturally. So when he would go into a business meeting, or he would go for a job interview, or for anything, sometimes people would actually just get either put off or intimidated by the way that he would come across. Mm-hmm. And the same when he was dating, and when he was single. And that made me think about what are the things that I've kind of taken for granted or just didn't even really notice. And I was just thinking back, for years and years I've always liked talking, and I'm talking very openly.
Yeah.
Somebody had asked me today, do I have scripts, or do I rehearse my videos, my podcast? I'm like, no. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I can tell, because it just seems like you just talk off the top of your head for an hour.
Right.
And I don't know if that's kind of innate with most people. But for me, ever since I was a little kid, ever since I was in elementary school, I would get in trouble for just talking.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not just one-on-one. The fact that you're willing to do that, like with your podcast, I met you, and about 10 minutes after I first met you, we were doing a show.
Yeah.
We started to talk about business, and you're like, you know what, this would actually be a good episode. Can we get the mic out? And just bang, we were going.
Yeah, because, I figure by having the mic in front of us, other people can learn from it as well. Now the podcast is getting like 10,000 downloads per episode.
That's great.
Which is a lot of people. Think about it. It's kind of crazy if you think about it.
That's like a soccer stadium.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I figure, hey, if I'm going to talk to you for an hour about, if I'm curious about, what you're doing, how'd you get there, why not share that with everyone?
Yeah.
And it's so easy nowadays. We could literally, like, we were doing it in front of in front of a lawn. I mean, you can basically do it without electricity if you want, as long as you have a mic and actually you can do it with the iPhone now.
Yeah, it's true, and it's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's really not.
Out, yeah.
My friend, he was doing some sort of a training program, and he was making the promotional video for it, and he did it in his closet with a sheet behind him on an iPhone, and I didn't know that until he told me. It looked pretty good. Yeah. I mean, the white backdrop and all that, and yeah, it's funny. And he's got the real deep voice, and he's in a closet, and the sheet buffered the sound, and it sounded good.
But definitely, so I've actually seen, I guess, little production studios in walk-in closets, for like music and things like that. And the girl that does the intro for my podcast, Marion, you probably know her.
Yeah, well, I don't think I've met her, but I know her name. Yeah,
she's voiced that Frenchie, and her setup when she was getting started was basically like a cardboard box that she would put over her head, so it would drown out the sound.
Yeah,
and I'm sure now that she's a lot more successful, she probably has a whole new rig. But especially when you're traveling, it forces us to find different ways to do things that don't require these big complicated setups.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, like, it almost doesn't matter, because so I know I can make my podcast sound, let's say 20% better, or even right here, like we're kind of a little bit in echoey room, so sorry about that, guys. But it's a nice space. I get to see, I get to look out the convention center. It's nice, brightly lit, and the audio is probably good enough where you guys can hear it, without a problem. Is it worth us being uncomfortable in a closet with a sheet over our heads to make the audio 10% better? Not for podcasts like this.
Yeah.
I would say there's a time and place for that. There's plenty of podcasts that are radio voice. Hey, and welcome to the Radio Voice podcast.
Yeah.
But this isn't it. This is just a chat.
That actually turns me off, to be honest with you. I guess I've just been a little bit jaded about the media, hiring actors to read off a teleprompter, basically. I'd rather hear real people that have something that I want to learn, that are just having a conversation and trying to convey that,
So one thing that I learned kind of about you, just from the way that you interact with people, you have this quiet confidence in a aspect where if you want to do something, you just do it. You don't really care what people say. You don't go out of the way and, like, let's say, jump over a fence that says, do not enter. But if there's a hole in the fence, or a way to go around it, you'll do it.
Yeah.
Where do you think that came from?
That's a good question. I grew up on an Indian reservation, and I remember out there, you said fence, and made me think of, like, literally jumping over fences and stuff. I don't know if it comes partly from only a few generations ago, there was no concept of private land ownership in tribes. Like, it was all the tribes. And so, you can walk over to this guy's teepee, or, it doesn't matter. There's no trespassing sign and a fence. There's no concept of that. So, and maybe it's just kids everywhere, but we were little hooligans running all over the place. And one of the things I like about Thailand, it can be a blessing and sometimes a curse, is there's less rules, There are some places in the U.S., it depends. If you're out in the country, it's a little different. But sometimes, you're downtown, there's just, this curb's blue because you can't park there on Tuesday, and over here, and you've got, if you're not wearing a helmet, you're going to get a ticket for a couple $100. And I kind of believe that in an ideal world, you could have almost no rules and just leave it up to people trying to be good to each other. Right? I don't believe in rules for the sake of rules. Like, if you pull up to a red light at 3 o'clock in the morning and you can't see a car in any direction, there is nothing wrong with going through that red light. You might get caught. There might be a cop sitting in the bushes. You might have to pay a ticket. That might be your consequence. But you didn't hurt anybody. I think that should be the measure. If you're not hurting people, I'm a libertarian. That's exactly what libertarians think. Unless you're hurting somebody, go ahead and do what you want. So
I've actually kind of gained that same freedom since living abroad. And when I go back to the US, especially when I drive, my friends freak out. They're like, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, why? Like who cares? And
there was a yellow line. You didn't see it?
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I saw it, but it wasn't yellow enough. But you know what? I definitely agree that there are some rules that just kind of are meant to be broken and just kind of, or they're just there. But do you think that ever goes too far? Where I would say this: one of the best things I like about this mentality and this confidence that we gain living on our own and traveling is, everyone's very independent, and no one is really that afraid of things. Like, you kind of, maybe when you first move out, but like if you've been traveling for over a year, you kind of just do whatever you want to do. The bad thing about it, and this has happened to me as well, is I don't know what the word is for it, but my pack mentality kind of goes down. So back in the US, if we were going to drive somewhere, we would always meet up first in front of someone's house, and we would wait for everyone, and then we would drive together, park together, and it was just very expected. And we would stay, for the dinner. If the dinner took 3 hours, we'd all stay for those 3 hours, and then go home together. Now it's kind of one of those things where even if you hop on our bikes at the same time, everyone kind of just drive their own direction.
Yeah.
No one looks back to make sure the other person's still following. If someone wants to leave, halfway through dinner, no one really cares. Right. It's not really expected. And the thing is, I really liked the group mentality of saying, like, let's take care of each other. Let's make sure no one's lost. Even though we were in cars and we all had cell phones and we had AAA and insurance and chances of something happening, weren't very big, but we would always look in the rear view, make sure our friends are there. And now it's pretty much the opposite of that. It's like if somebody disappeared for 3 months or left the country, we probably wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you're bringing up a few different memories for me. Like yesterday, was it yesterday? Might have been the day before. Went down to the quarry, this place that a lot of people go swimming around here. If you guys are somewhere other than Chiang Mai, Google Chiang Mai Quarry, you'll see some amazing pictures. Or you'll probably see Johnny's blog pop up, actually.
Well, what's actually funny is I went there once, loved it, took photos, wrote a blog post, and then I wanted to go back a year later, and I could not remember the directions. So I Googled, I think, like Red Mud Quarry, Chiang Mai, and I found my blog was the top result.
Yeah, you're way up there.
And then I followed my own directions to get there.
Yeah, cool.
Like,
That's great, man. Way to go. It's like time capsule.
Yeah.
There's your photos come up really high too, because I think your images are tagged Chiang Mai Quarry or something like that. Yeah. So that's good SEO. But we came back from the quarry, and I was with 3 people who it was their first time there, so they all followed me, and I barely got through a light as it was turning red, and I had to pull over to the left and wait, like you're saying, which I hardly ever do, and I didn't mind. I wasn't in a hurry that day, but I remember going back to when I was in middle school. We'd go snowboarding, and somebody's dad would give us a ride up to the mountain, and I would do, at first everybody's going, what chair are we going to go up, which route are we going to go, and I would do that for a few runs, but I didn't really like that. I just wanted to go wherever I wanted to go, and I didn't really want to think, like, after we go up to chair 6, we're going to go down to chair 8, and then we're going to go to the lodge and get some coffee, and then we're going to go to chair 5, and it's like, no, that's kind of the opposite of why I go to the mountain. I'm just there to, like, roam around and not think. And so I would just we'd make an agreement, like, I would go with them for a few runs, and then we're supposed to be going to chair 8, and I would pretend like I took a wrong turn, and I would have had to hike up, so I just went down to chair 3 or whatever, and I would just accidentally get separated, because that's secretly what I wanted. And in middle school, of course, I wasn't mature enough to be like, what, guys, how about I'll just catch up with you at lunch, but I'm just going to go do some whatever.
And I don't think it would have been socially acceptable.
Probably not. Yeah, they would have thought it was weird, and then they would have still been together after I left talking about, what's up with Dan? Seems like, is he mad or something?
So I think there's the two sides of that, the pros and cons of it. And, part of me really does miss, like, we're friends, so we can do everything together no matter what. Yeah. Even if we're kind of holding each other back or we're doing things that we kind of don't like doing, we're going to do it together. But at the same time, the way we live life kind of now is I think we have more adventure, we have more fun, we do more of the things that we like to do personally, and we're a bit more selfish. Yeah. But I think there's downsides to that as well. We lose some of the kinship and the I don't know, I guess the almost like a family trust, that we have with friends. Yeah. And I think back home, the reason why we have that is because we know we're probably not going to meet new friends that often. These are our friends that we've had for 3 years or 5 years or 10 years even, because there's only so many people you go to school with. There's only so many people in your neighborhood. While here, we literally meet new people from different parts of the world every day. So we don't really feel like that need to bend over to accommodate them. We're like, oh, well, if they don't like exactly the way I live my life and what I want to do 100%, they can go do their thing, and I'm going to meet someone new tomorrow anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've actually, since I've been in Chiang Mai, just not even a year and a half, a little over a year, I've had some of the people that I connected with the best, they've left already, One guy moved to China, people go back to the U.S. and things like that. And I'll probably bump into him somewhere down the road. But the other side of it, too, is deciding how much you want to invest in a friendship that might last for 3 months or 6 months, So I think I've always, I'm not sure why, but I've always been pretty independent, even at a younger age like that. Maybe it's because I'm an only child. I spent a lot of time building Legos by myself, and I liked it. It's quiet and peaceful. So I don't know. I wanted to jump back, too, for people that are listening to this that haven't heard you before or read your blog, what Johnny's niche is, more or less. I mean, honestly, he writes about a lot of different things. But a lot of people that follow Johnny are, I'm almost tired of the buzzword digital nomad, but that's what people recognize. So they're digital nomads, or they have location-independent businesses, or they're aspiring to that. And Johnny is really good about sharing his progress, what's worked for him, like the specific classes he's taking, the specific mentors he's had to help people if they want to go down that same road. And he has a lot of guests on that can teach things along those lines. So if you're listening to this because you think it's cool that I live in Thailand and you want to know how to do it, because I don't get into the specifics that much, but Johnny does. And check out johnnyfd.com. Check out the Travel Like a Boss podcast, which has a lot of good information. And if you're not yet into podcasting, listening to podcasts, I do it while I'm cooking food. I do it while I'm going to the gym. I do it while I'm at the gym, while I'm waiting at the immigration office or the dentist's office or whatever. You literally, Zig Ziglar used to always talk about, what did he call it, Automobile University or something? Mm-hmm. They did some study at USC when Zig Ziglar was there. And, I forget, but it was something within like the average person's commute in the United States. They took the average and they said, if you listen to audiobooks instead of the radio or instead of, a tape music, you can get the equivalent of a 2-year degree in like 3 years in your car. So that stuff adds up.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And like every time I talk to my sister, probably we have a long conversation probably once every 2 weeks. I tell her all the stuff that I've learned, I've been doing, and she's like, how do you have time to learn all this and do all this? And part of it's just not having that many responsibilities while living out here and having kind of like my own location-independent job. But a lot of it is during my free time, and everyone has some free time. You have commute time, you have time that you're on the toilet, time that you're in the shower. I have my podcast on, literally, for those 2 minutes that I'm going to be in the bathroom. If I'm brushing my teeth, I have a podcast on. If I'm taking a shower, I have a podcast on.
Yeah, me too.
If I'm walking to the gym, I have a podcast on. Yeah. Because, I do enjoy music, and I'll have music on if I'm, like, let's say, doing like a workout.
Yeah, right. Me
but
too.
While walking to the gym, I don't need to listen to the latest hit. I can listen to something that might teach me something that, it's still entertaining to me because it's, I find topics that I enjoy, and I kind of have a wide variety of podcasts I listen to, Like right now I'm trying to listen to everything with Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he's very interesting. I'm reading his book.
Yeah, we were talking about that. I'm reading the book too.
Yeah. And, he's, to me, he's an inspiration. I'm like, if he's done so much, you know what? Like, I'm in his shadow. He's like a giant sequoia to me, to my, to my little birchling. Because not only was he like the best bodybuilder ever in the world, became the greatest movie star, great politician, back to being an actor, and he does all these crazy things. Like literally, I can't even name it because I would say naming everything that he's accomplished is probably more difficult than what people do in their day-to-day lives. Just even naming it, not even doing it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I couldn't believe it. A lot of little things I didn't know. He was in the Army. I didn't know that. Yeah. I'd seen him on some TV shows, and he had a tank, and I just thought that was weird because he was an action hero guy. But no, he actually knows how to drive a tank, and he was in the Austrian Army. Mm-hmm. It's like, man, what does this guy ever sleep?
No, he doesn't. He really says he doesn't really rest.
Sleep faster, right? Yeah. I heard a talk where he said he talks, and actually this is something I'm really interested in and have been learning about, is sleep, because you'll hear, you hear about the CEOs who get up at 4 or 5 in the morning. A lot of them get up between like 4 to 6. 5 to 6 might be the most common. and they exercise, and they're getting their day sorted before most people are up, and that's cool, but what's their life expectancy? Are they happy? What are their stress levels like? Are they having to go get surgery for medical problems that are caused by lack of sleep and stress? So to me, it's interesting. And you've even got Schwarzenegger, who's an athlete, and typically you think athletes need sleep, right? And at least in his book, what he says, during his bodybuilding days, he was getting 7 hours of sleep, which I was a little surprised. I mean, you would think working out 4 hours a day, 6 days a week, you would need more than that. But maybe he took naps. I don't know.
But maybe those 7 hours were really restful sleep, and when he was awake, he was healthy and eating right and getting sun and all these other things.
Yeah.
Versus, let's say someone gets 7 hours of sleep, or even 9 hours of sleep, but they're on their iPad with the bright blue light shining in their face while they're in bed.
And they're half drunk, and they right, doing all those things.
And they're sleeping with these bright lights everywhere in the room, like these LED lights, and there's all these little things that are so, I guess, normal to me. It's so like what's the word for it? Almost like common sense to me. Like sleeping when you go to sleep, you should sleep when you're tired and it's dark out.
Right.
And you shouldn't have these bright blue LED lights, shining from your charger or from your TV. You shouldn't have your cell phone on next to you, and every hour someone texts you and you have the bright light indicator on, like stuff like that. Just to me, it drives me crazy if someone has that. And I remember, a few years ago when I was in San Diego visiting some friends for the summer, we would just all crash. We would hang out at someone's house, and there'd be maybe 5 of us crashing in someone's living room. And a good friend of mine, Amanda, very nice person, but she drove me crazy because she set her phone to have the LED light flash. Have you ever seen that?
Not exactly.
It's like imagine,
so there's 5 of you, and she's got to have her phone, right?
Yeah, she has to have her phone, and she has people texting her in the middle of the night, 4 or 5 in the morning. And not only is it vibrating, which it still wakes you up, but you have this bright LED flashing that it's almost like a strobe light.
Yeah.
And she actually wakes up, she texts back, goes back to sleep.
That's so bizarre.
And I'm like, there's no way that's healthy for you.
Yeah. No, I agree. I never. Well, actually, now what I do is I have my charger is in my bedroom, but I put my phone face down and I put it on airplane mode.
I do the same.
Yep. So there's,
and I think that's fine. But here's a little hack, I guess. Mm-hmm. On the nights that I feel like I just cannot fall asleep. I mean, usually I'm fine, but there's some nights I toss and turn.
Yep.
One thing I do is I'll just go turn off the router.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a difference. I don't do it every night because it's kind of a pain in the butt, and the router's in another room anyways. But if I really can't sleep, I'll check my phone, make sure it's actually on airplane mode. Sometimes it's not, and I'll feel it, and then I'll turn off the router. And these are such small things. I actually say that most people listen to this. If you're so bombarded with normal society, anyways, you might not even notice. I think it's the only reason why I notice these things now is because I'm so in tune with my body now. I'm really, for most of my life, I was just kind of just used to being tired, used to being, used to taking a nap after lunch. I thought that was normal. Yeah. Used to not wanting to wake up first thing in the morning and hitting the snooze button. All these things that are common aren't really normal. If you're not waking up, 5 minutes before your alarm clock naturally, and then wanting to just jump up and smile and then go outside in the sun, something's wrong. If you feel like you have to take naps every day in the afternoon, something's wrong. If you're sluggish and you want to take a nap after your meal, you probably shouldn't have been eating that. And these things all together, now that I've kind of figured out for myself, has led me to have more energy, more productivity. So when I do talk to my sister every 2 weeks, I have a whole new project, a whole new stream of income, a whole new business, a whole new something.
What you said about figuring it out for yourself, that hit home with me, because I think that there's always some new thing that you have to do or else you're doing it wrong. It's the Atkins diet, it's the paleo diet, it's this, it's that, and nothing wrong with any of those. And a lot of those things work well for somebody, but not everybody's exactly the same. And I'm a big believer in experimenting and seeing what works. Tim Ferriss always talks about, you change one thing. You don't change 10 things at once, because then you don't know what made the difference. Mm-hmm. Change one thing, see how it affects you. If it works, keep it. If it doesn't, scrap it. And, I don't use an alarm clock. I used to, but I don't now. And what I've been doing is tracking my sleep, and it makes me more conscious of it. And what I mean by that, I don't mean like, one of those deals that tells when you roll around in your bed. I just write with a dry erase marker on the tile on my bathroom wall. I write what time I went to bed, and then in the morning I write what time I got up. And it just shows me the pattern. And if I have one, because I tend to stay up pretty late. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons I'm interested in this whole sleep thing and productivity. Typically I'll go to bed like after 1. It's rare if I go to bed before 1. And sometimes I'll get on a tear. Either I'm on a roll with work or something's bugging me, and I'll go to bed really late. And that'll throw me off for a couple days, and I'll feel groggy like you're talking about, which I used to feel a lot more often. But I've noticed that just tracking things, whatever it is, whether it's how much sugar you're eating, how far you're walking every day, what time you're going to sleep, tracking is huge. That was actually one of the things I made a note to talk about was tracking. I used to think that it was kind of for like OCD people who just had to write everything down. But for me, tracking 1 or maybe 2 things at a time is actually really useful, and it doesn't like waste my whole day. And, if you have a problem with credit card spending, tracking your credit card spending or using only cash.
So I used to be very, very against writing anything down or tracking anything. I don't even know why. I almost it really doesn't take that long. I think it's one of those things where I thought, I've heard this a million times. Yeah, yada, yada, yada. I don't care. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I just didn't do it. And it doesn't matter how many people told me, I just want to do it. I wouldn't write it down. I used to see people at the gym with a notepad, and I used to just kind of smirk and just, look away. Mm-hmm. I would see people, just any of that. But here's a hard truth, guys and gals. It works. What gets measured gets results. Mm-hmm. I don't know who said that, but it really is true, 100%. And for examples in my life, the time I got in the best shape of my life when I was doing CrossFit, and maybe part of it was from the intense, insane workouts that they made us do. But a big part of it was, this is the first time I had a notebook that I was forced to write in every single day, and I kept track of my results. I kept track of the exercises I was doing, what days I would work out, mm-hmm. The weights that I would lift. And they even had this big whiteboard where you write your name and your time.
Yeah.
And the end of the week, at the end of the week, you would see, my goal was I wanted to look at the board and see my name on all 5 slots, Monday through Friday, sometimes even Saturdays. Right. And then also see my PR, my personal record, and make sure my time wasn't the slowest, maybe if I was trying to get, a little bit faster than the group in the morning or the other people in the group. And
you pick the guy just in front of you, right?
Yeah. And I promise you it works. Yep. I don't know how sustainable CrossFit is for the long-term health, but writing that down, pushing yourself forward works.
There's another concept that's sort of related to that, which, I try to cite where I'm finding this stuff in case you guys want to check it out. But I was listening to, I believe it was a podcast. It might have been Tal Ben-Shahar, who used to be a professor. He's an author. He used to be a professor at Harvard. He was famous. They used to call it Happiness 101. It was a class that he had. It was actually, I think it was really Positive Psychology 1504, which is on YouTube, and you can watch all of it. So check it out. But he talks about, people generally when they're trying to improve at whatever, change their lifestyle, there's this idea that you can just use an increased amount of discipline. Okay, I'm going to track my CrossFit workouts. I'm going to track my calories. I'm going to track what time I'm going to sleep. I'm going to, say affirmations. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But they make a mistake of thinking they have more discipline than they do and trying to do everything at once. And he said it's kind of a fallacy. And, I'm sure he's looked into studies around this. You can look it up. But basically, the amount of discipline you have isn't really that variable. It's kind of fixed. You kind of have what you have. And you need to focus it on, 1 or 2 things at a time. So, if you're new in CrossFit, focus it on CrossFit. Focus it on your working out, maybe tracking what you're eating or whatever, or your sleep. And, then maybe after you've done that for a month or two and you've kind of got that down to a habit, just like brushing your teeth or tying your shoes, where you don't need discipline to do it, it just happens. Okay, now you can take that same discipline and shift it to your work habits.
I agree 100%, because instead of using up all of your discipline in 2 days, you can spread it, maybe you can make it last the 21 days it takes to develop that new habit.
Right.
And pretty much that's exactly what I did. I think I started, I was like, okay, all I want is to get in shape.
Yeah.
So I spent 100% of my focus on that, wrote down my goals for that. And then once I started kind of achieving that, it became kind of second nature. I was like, okay, now I actually need to make some money. I'm broke. I'm running out of money. So I focused 100% energy on just that. And then I was like, oh, I really want to start a podcast. And I focused my 100% energy on that. And then I started doing, something else. And yeah, you're 100% right. Like I personally cannot do 20 things at once that are new. I can do 20 things that I've done, 19 things I've done before, and one new thing.
Yeah, right. And a lot of what we do, you learn it and you get better at it to where it's easy for you. And then we talk about delegating a lot too. You can get systems or people in place, whatever it is, or both, so that it's not taking up as much of your time. And once you get the system, you're like building an engine. Once the engine's running, once in a while you might need to put fuel in it or tune it up. But for the most part, it's doing its thing and you can go build another engine.
So I want to talk a little bit more about writing things down, because this is not only applied in my fitness, but when I finally wrote down my goals on how much money I want to make from an online business, it all came true. I looked back at my notebooks and 100% of them came true, which is crazy, because a lot of those numbers I kind of just picked out of my head.
Yeah.
With my relationship, actually, I was single. For God knows how long, and it wasn't until I met someone who said, hey, you should write down, your 2 columns, or the must-haves, the nice-to-haves, and then have a third column of, like non-negotiable, like
deal breakers.
Yeah. And I remember I wrote it down because I met this gal who had just recently gotten engaged, and she was so happy. And I was saying to her, I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready to start dating. I had taken a year off of dating so I could focus on getting in shape and then building my business. And I was like, I'm ready. And she's like, write this down. And I was like, okay. So I went home, wrote down 30 things, moved them in columns. And you know what? A month or 2 later, I met Larissa, and who is the love of my life, who I've been together now with for a year and a half, and I'm probably going to spend the rest of my life with. I am going to spend the rest of my life with.
She's a great person. Man.
She's a great person, yeah. And I was like, well, and if I look back on the list, it's exactly what I wrote.
And can I interject something? There's a fundamental hiding in there. Some of you guys probably noticed it, but Johnny said he went to someone who had just gotten engaged. So he did not go to someone who had just gone through their 3rd divorce, right? You look for the role model who's done what you want to do. Just like the people that read your blog and listen to your podcast, they want to either be a drop shipper or something similar. They want to make an location-independent income. Listen to Johnny, because he's done it. Don't listen to the guy who bought the course yesterday and hasn't done it yet, right? So that's a real fundamental we've talked about on this before. Talk to Johnny's friend who just got engaged. If you want to know how to find a great person, talk to Johnny. If you want to be a drop shipper, or check out Anton's course.
Yeah, 100%. I 100% believe in role modeling and just following someone who's done it.
Yeah.
I think actually there's a caveat is don't find someone who's done it 20 years ago and has kind of forgotten about how they did it.
Yeah.
I think the reason why it works so well is because I had asked someone who had just gotten engaged.
Right.
So she had just gone through the process.
Yeah. Just like you couldn't remember how to get to the quarry a year after you wrote your blog, right?
Yeah.
Somebody who's doing this a lot, or it's fresh in their mind.
Exactly.
I remember you actually busted my balls when we were playing Better Me the other day. You had some kind of a relationship thing and you made some kind of commitment, I think, and you needed an accountability partner. I was like, I'll be your partner. And you're like, I think I want Danny to be my partner. He's the one with the happy girlfriend. He's going to be visiting. Okay, yeah, touche. You got me. That's fair. So, hey, back to writing things down. Again, we're trying to give people nuggets. So here's one I'm trying to give you guys. Where do you write it down, right? If you put it in a notebook, that's great. Do you keep the notebook on your desk where you can see it every day? Are you putting a list on your door that you walk through, like your bathroom door or the door when you leave your house every day, so you see and are reminded of this stuff? Something that's been working awesome for me lately is a dry erase pen. And most people have a mirror in their bathroom. You can write on the mirror. I happen to have white tile in my whole bathroom. So my whole bathroom is basically a giant dry erase board, which I didn't realize that until a while. I was writing on a dry erase board before, which is 3 feet wide or something. And then I went, wait a minute, my whole bathroom is a dry erase board. This is awesome. So I'm writing quotes up there. That's where I'm tracking my sleep. That's where I'm writing my 2 main goals every day. And I don't mean the goal for the day. I mean my 2 main goals, I write them every day. And it's almost creepy now. It's like, a little bit serial killer-ish. I've got my goals 60 or 70 times all around the bathroom. I'm scribbling the same thing over and over.
What are your 2 main goals?
I'm actually experimenting with keeping those private right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's so many different schools of thought on goals and how many you should have and who you should share them with, or should you share them at all. And so I talked, I think it was Scott Goodnight, who I need to probably get him on this show too. Anyway, we were talking about goals, and I think he was the one who gave me this metaphor of, it's like a boiling pot, and like in a pressure cooker, you build up that pressure and it's boiling and you've got all this energy in there. And if you tell the wrong person your goal, and I'm not saying that's you, but this is just an experiment for me, but if you tell the wrong person your goal, it's like you open that pressure cooker and it just goes like, there goes your pressure.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure exactly why that might be true, but I'm thinking maybe if you're really fired up about something, like, Johnny, I got to tell you about this new thing I'm doing. I'm so fired up. I just set my goal. I'm writing it down every day, and here it is. And you're like, oh yeah, all right, that's cool, I guess.
Yeah. And if I'm not as fired up, or if I find let's say holes in it.
Yeah, right. Then there goes my steam, right?
Yeah, you know what?
Maybe.
I agree with that. But the only thing we know 100% is if you have goals, whether you write it down or not, or if you share it or not, it's 1 million times better than not having goals.
Right.
But I really think that the one thing that everyone should do is write it down. Whether you keep it personal or you keep it private, just freaking write it down.
Yep. They say that there's something magical that happens between your mind and your hand.
Yeah.
Like you're seeing it, you're thinking it, you're writing it, like it's engaging your mind, and you're like, yeah, go ahead.
So I'm not a millionaire yet. I'm not even close. I'm a lot closer than I was 2 years ago. And I actually have a path to get there now. And a big part of it is when I finally wrote that down. I think I first wrote it down, I made like a little infographic for my blog. I think it was a title like how the 10x rule of thinking is going to make me a millionaire. And I made this little infographic, and I was like, oh, it's cool. But seeing my picture with those numbers, or that word millionaire, man, that opened my eyes. And then when I physically took a pen and paper and I wrote it down, I realized I've never written out 1 million before. And I'm willing to bet most people have never written down that many numbers. I mean, when have you ever signed a check for $1 million? Or even wrote, why would you even write it down on a piece of paper? That many commas and that many zeros. But when you do, it becomes a reality. And I would love people to come back to this episode, 2-3 years from now. Maybe it might take longer. Maybe I can do it faster.
Yeah.
I would love for people to come back and be like, what? Johnny was not a millionaire yet when he was on Dan's show, but he is now.
If somebody might be listening to this right now in 2019, hello in the future, they might go check johnnyfd.com and see that.
Yeah.
I know you do those income reports, and you're really transparent with stuff. So.
Those income reports have helped me more than anyone else. So many people message me and comment saying, hey, thanks so much for the motivation, also the transparency, and showing what people, other people what works.
Yeah.
But honestly, those reports have forced me to sit down and actually go look at the numbers and write it down. And that's helped me so freaking much.
Yeah.
All my sales for all these different things have gone up because my eyes are on it. I'm thinking about it. To be honest, my 2 books are such a small part of my income now that I don't even look at the sales until I started these income reports. And I'm like, all right, once a month I have to log into Amazon and see what I'm selling. And because I'm logging in, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if I tweak this, if the sales go up.
Right.
I wonder if I change the price, when the sales go up, and everything has.
Yeah, actually, that's another thing it reminds me, checklists and routines. So you've got, a monthly routine to check on all your income? I have a small daily routine, which I put it in Google Keep, Google has so many things going on. It's kind of like a Google Doc, but it's a little checklist, and every day I just check it off, and then the next day I uncheck them all and check them off again. And some of the things on there reminds me of you checking your books. literally, where is it? I run mastermind groups, and all it says is mastermind action / ideas ? So all that's there to do is make me just think about it, even if it's literally for like 15 seconds, and I go, no, there's nothing to be done today. But once in a while I go, oh, you know what? Yes, I meant to follow up with Joe Blow, and it happens because I'm conscious of it, and it's on a list, and I have that routine.
You know what? Masterminds are another one of the things that really work that I've never done until now.
I was going to actually... there's a guy in town here who is putting one together, but it just hasn't happened yet, and it's been a long time, and I actually was planning on... I'm putting you on the spot. I was planning on asking you if you wanted to form one with me.
Okay.
And I've run a lot of them, so I have a format that works great. And they are so powerful, man. Yep. Every time I've made big, fast strides, I really can't think of any time in my life that I've moved quickly on things where I wasn't influenced by a mastermind. It's really great. It's like, you were talking about CrossFit. The guy who's like just in front of you on the board, at least if you work the way I do, you can shoot for the guy who's number 1 on the board, and you're doing that's your long-term goal. But the first thing you got to do is if you're number 6, you got to pass number 5.
Yep.
And it's competitive. Usually it's friendly competition probably in that environment. But that's how I felt in mastermind groups. Was I saw a lady, and I've mentioned this on the podcast, Renee Daniels was writing a book called 10 Little Bulldogs. And she's a full-time realtor, but she had a dream to write a children's book. And she's really into bulldogs. She takes them to shows and breeds them and stuff. And so that was like her passion project. And every week, at the end, one of the things we would do is make commitments. What are you going to do before next week? And she's like, I'm meeting with the photographer. We're going to Lake Padden. We're taking pictures on the swing set. And then she'd just rattle off these things. And this will all be done by next Tuesday. And she'd come back and it was done. And each week didn't seem like anything crazy. It was doable every week. But within like 6 weeks, the book was done. She had the cover art, and she had talked to the Remax International nonprofit thing, and it was their official book, and blah blah blah. And she was donating proceeds to their foundation, and I just went, holy cow! And I in bicycle racing they call it drafting, where you get behind the person and you just ride on their tail. And I'm like, I got inspired by watching her, and that's when Positive Atmosphere and the Positive Thinking page and all that came about. I'd been thinking about it. I had it written down, for at least a year at that point. But I'm like, what's my excuse? So I'm like, hey guys, by next week I'm gonna get the URL, and I'm gonna look into what software to use, and just boom, boom, boom. It just happens, man.
I like it. So the mastermind that I'm in now is it's closed. So sorry guys, it's not actually open for anyone, but it's called Membership Site Master, and it was a mastermind put on by Anton Kraly, who's also the guy who taught me dropshipping.
Yeah, and he's been on the show.
Yeah, and great interview. Definitely listen to it. Because he's taught me so successfully with dropshipping, and not only do I know he's a genuine guy, but he knows what he's talking about, but also I know his formula, his kind of like the way that he teaches is very easy to follow for me because I was successful with his dropshipping. So I was like, well, he's coming out with a new course teaching people how to make membership sites where they basically they're online courses where people pay for membership to, kind of like his dropshipping course.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, you know what? I'll do it. I didn't even have a topic in mind when I started. I was like, I trust this guy 100%. Let me join this mastermind, and I paid $2,000 to join, and it was hard, to be honest. It was very hard for me to press that pay button, even though I'm now making a lot more money, and even though I know what he teaches works, and even though I know by me joining it, I'm going to make more money too, and it was still so hard. It was honestly, I'm almost kind of embarrassed how hard it was to press that button, but I signed up for it, and part of the reason why I didn't, I was skeptical about signing up was because of my time, and I knew it was an 8-week course, and that was the busiest 8 weeks of my life. My parents were coming to visit.
Yeah, okay.
My sister, my niece, my nephew, and we were going to go from Chiang Mai down to Koh Lanta for 10 days, and then to Taiwan.
You had that villa or villa, or however you want to say it, right? I saw the pictures.
Yeah. So we rented this big house that we all lived in, and then it was so much to do. Literally flying around, and I was like, there's no freaking way I'm going to be able to dedicate 8 weeks to this mastermind while doing this. But because I joined and I dedicated myself, and I had these 8 other people in the group, that we had weekly calls every Thursday night, I was like, well, I have to do it. So I'd find time. I would like wake up early. I'd stay up late. I would like be, I had to skip out on some activities. Like my parents wanted to go to a night market one night, and it was a Thursday, and I was like, I can't do it. I have this call. So I was always behind. I was like probably 2 weeks behind everyone else. So I was in 8th place, and everyone else was like chugging along. They're like, yeah, finish this week's videos, finish this week's, tasks. And I was behind. I was always chasing, but I was that hungry guy. I'm like, I cannot be last. I have to push ahead. And somehow, this is week 8, and I am now so much ahead of everyone else.
Really? Wow.
And I think it's because my mind, I'm like, I'm going to sprint this.
Yeah.
I'm going to catch up.
And all those, what's the word I'm looking for? The handicaps you had are gone now, right?
You're all
focused.
gone.
Yeah.
Oh man, like my course is literally going to be live today, and no one else knows about it yet because I haven't openly talked about it. But I am editing the sales video, and by the time this episode is out, it's going to be live.
Great.
Yeah, and thank you. And I never would have had it done. 100%. I'm 100% sure I would not have had it done if it wasn't for joining that mastermind.
Right. And a lot of people, they're waiting for that someday when all the stars align and everything's perfect. One of my favorite sayings is, you can't wait till all the lights are green to leave the house. You just got to go. And you had a bunch of red lights and reasons why you probably, and nobody probably would have debated you. Oh, yeah, go ahead and wait a couple months. Do it when you're back and done with your vacation. But, and you can do that. But you can do that for your whole life. And people do that on a lot of different things. Starting a business or moving or starting a family or whatever it is. You can always find a million reasons why this isn't the right time. But, someday, today is someday. Yeah. Right? Like, someday you have to do it today.
Yeah, 100%. And I really feel like once you have your feet moving, and once you start, you have the momentum. Especially if some things are in place, well, you'll kind of figure everything else out.
Yes, I actually made a note to talk to you about that because I know I've heard you say that a lot, the figuring it out part. And the thing that I really like to keep in mind is you can't always see the mountaintop from the valley. That doesn't mean you can't get to the mountaintop from the valley. And there are people who have been there who can tell you which trail to take. There are signs, and all that stuff. So, like you said, if you get started, and then once you're in motion, life tends to give you hints and put people around you that you need. So, I was going to ask you about when I'm not totally clear on this, but you came, I think, on a trip to Thailand with your cousin.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you went back and then came right back to Thailand. Did you just stay?
So I pretty much just stayed.
Okay.
I had made that decision. I'm going to give you a copy of my book, 12 Weeks to Thailand.
Okay. Yes, I need to read it.
It explains everything in there. But basically, I was out here, end of my 3-week vacation. I was like, I'm staying.
Yeah.
But I had just signed a 1-year lease for the house that I was going to live in.
Okay.
I had a business partner back home. I had 2 cars. I had tons of furniture, tons of clothes, all the stuff. And I was like, well, I can't just stay. Like, I have to go back and do some, sell some stuff. Yeah. But I'm gonna give myself 3 weeks to do it. So I had bought a return flight literally as soon as I went back. I was like, that's the first thing I'm gonna do, because I know if I don't make that commitment, if I don't, guess do that first step.
Give yourself a deadline.
If I didn't give myself a deadline, if I didn't write those things down, I actually wrote down a list. That was a huge part. And big thanks to Tim Ferriss for his book being out at the time. This was 2008.
Yeah.
And I wrote down
the 4-hour work week, right?
Yeah, the 4-hour work week. And I was like, what do I need to do? And I remember I had this list of, I need a visa, I need a plane ticket, I need to find an apartment, I need to sell my car, I need to sell, this stuff, I need to put this in storage. And I just had this long freaking list. It was probably 2 pages long.
Yeah.
But because I had the list and I had little check boxes,
yeah, once you put it on paper, for me, it just seems more doable. There's everything. David Allen, Getting Things Done, it's a famous book and everything, and he says that your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them. So get it all down on paper, and then you can just focus one thing at a time. Bang, bang, bang. You don't have to remember them all at once.
I like that. And you know what? That's a very good tip. So if you guys ever have something on your mind, especially before bed, write it down and then forget about it. Because I think that's why sometimes when we think about something all night, it's because we're afraid we're going to forget about it,
right.
Or we feel like we have to take care of it that night. Write it down and then say, you know what, it's there, it's on my to-do list, I'll do it in the morning.
Yeah, I've got a pen and pad within reach normally of my bed. And then also the thing that helps me with that is just Google Calendar. I mean, I do everything Google. It doesn't matter what you use, but having a calendar that sends me a reminder, I can forget.
So much easier.
Doesn't matter.
Or outsource it. Like, what you had mentioned earlier about having VAs or having other people kind of people you can delegate things to. I mean, the stupidest things. Like last night, I was having trouble unwinding going to bed because I was like, my house is a mess. My condo is a mess, and I need to like schedule someone to come clean it. And I just kept thinking about it. And I was like, I'll like call them tomorrow. And it was on my mind, and I was like, you know what? Let me just send them a Facebook message.
Yes, right.
And it was like 11 p.m. and I sent it to them, and I think there was one other thing on my mind too, and I was like, okay, let me just send it to them. I know it's 11. I know they're not going to look at it until the morning, but it's off my chest.
Right.
And I was able to sleep so well.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're not somewhere where you can, have, I mean, what are you paying for somebody to come clean?
I pay 400 baht, which is like $12.
Yeah.
For someone to come every week. And to be honest, it's almost annoying to have, because I have to be there when they come clean. I have to let them in, and when they're here, I actually just play video games for an hour.
Yeah.
But it's still annoying for them to come, so I'm actually trying to do it so they come every like 10 days instead. But I also realize that this is not something I should complain about.
It's one of those first world problems.
Yeah.
But
even back in LA, when I wasn't making that much money back home when I was living in the US, because I had a lot of expenses, and it was a lot more expensive for someone to come clean. It was like $80 to $100 for them to clean. But what I would do is I would have them come minimum once a month just to do the big stuff. Like I would try to clean stuff myself, but I'm not good at scrubbing the bathtub or like scrubbing the toilets and getting behind things. So I would at minimum get someone to come once a month. And ideally, if you are willing to do some of the work yourself, every 2 weeks is plenty. And I really think that it's a good use of your time, number one, because if you have a roommate and you each pay $40 every 2 weeks, to have a clean house where you can be healthy, you can be happy, you can be more productive, I really think it's worth it.
Yeah. A lot of people do work trade for that kind of stuff too. If you don't have the money but you know how to work on cars, change somebody's oil and have them clean your house for a month or something like that.
Okay.
Let's see here. I want to jump. Oh, you know what? Okay, so we mentioned Chiang Mai and cost of living a little bit here, which if you're new to this show, you might not know that Johnny and I both live up in northern Thailand in a place called Chiang Mai, which is known, I think it's the number one hub for the whole digital nomads scene. Of course, you've got like San Francisco has all the startup scene and New York and places like that. But over here, you've got a lot of people who are more or less independent. They're starting up some kind of small business online. And this is a really good place to do it. Cost of living is low. Quality of life is good. And then also you've got this network of people around that you can work with at the co-working space. There are events. Johnny put on the summit that a whole bunch of people went to, and there was a bunch of speakers sharing their knowledge. So Chiang Mai is a great place to be if you're looking to do something like that or just to visit. But I think the thing with Charlie, we're okay to talk about that, right?
We can talk about it.
Yeah, so I want to mention this new opportunity. Johnny and I just in the last few days met a guy named Charlie who is, he lives on Koh Phangan, which is an island down in the Gulf of Thailand, right next to Koh Samui. If it's hard to, I'll just tell you how to spell Koh Samui. Koh is Koh, and then Samui is Samui. So Google it, look it up on the map. Just north is Koh Phangan, which is a smaller island. It's famous for the full moon party, but it's got a lot other than that going on. So Charlie has been there for like 12 years full time, I think. First went there back in 96, I believe. And he has a magazine, a real estate rental and development company, a co-working space, which is very recent, and probably a few things I don't even know about. He seems like that kind of guy. He's got a lot of things going on. But he came up here to Chiang Mai to check out the scene and talked to Johnny and I both about a program that he wanted to get going. And we both thought it sounded great, so we're willing to help him get the word out. Basically, he's looking, and fill in whatever I forget, Johnny. He's looking for 8 interns to come down there and run social media for 8 different resorts and hotels. And you will get a free room at the resort that you're, doing the social media for, writing about, checking their travel TripAdvisor reviews and all that kind of stuff. You'll get to stay there for free. You'll get to work at his co-working space for free, which I think is a few $100s a month, roughly. That's free. And I believe 2 meals a day free. All you need to do is get yourself there and then bring any fun money, whatever, going on your little snorkeling trips money, stuff like that. And so he is going to be taking applications soon, or maybe now. And Johnny, it's at johnnyfd.com, right?
It'll just go to either johnnyfd.com or travellikeabosspodcast.com, and there's going to be a link that says internship.
Yep.
And then you can just apply there.
And I'll put a link in the show notes for this episode too, to that, because Johnny just jumped on it yesterday and wrote the whole thing up, so I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. You can have the traffic. Smart move.
Yeah, thank you.
So anyway, guys, there's going to be 8 spots opening up to come over and have basically no overhead. You're going to have to buy your ticket over here. From the U.S., you can usually get a one-way ticket to Thailand for $500 and something. And I believe it's, around, is it 3 to 6 months, something like that?
Yeah, so he wants people for 6 months just because he doesn't want to have to retrain everyone.
Yeah.
And actually his goal is, if you do a really good job, he's happy to keep you on, and then at the end of the 6 months, instead of it being a free internship, a non-paid internship, he's actually thinking about saying, if you want to stay on, we can pay you.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be very, very good for people who either just starting out or just want to move out to Thailand and bootstrap. Maybe you have an idea that you want. Maybe you're writing a book. Maybe you want to start podcasts. Maybe you want to start a drop shipping store. Whatever it is, you're going to have the whole afternoon to work on it.
Yep.
The time requirement is only 3 hours a day.
Yep. 6 days a week, 3 hours.
6 days a week, yeah. So Monday through Saturday in the mornings, 9 to noon.
Yep.
And then you have the whole afternoon off. And, you could go, just play beach volleyball, but he really wants people to build a community. I think that's actually his incentive, is to get more people to this new co-working space, because it's brand new. There's not that many people living there yet. He wants people to just hang out at the co-working space, and you can work on whatever projects you want. You can network with each other, you can learn from each other.
And I can tell you, I really like this island, and I spent about 6 weeks there last year, and the way I did it, because I did want to go to the beach and everything pretty much every day, and so the way I split up my day was I would work until about anywhere from 2 to 4, and then I would take off. Usually I would work until like 3 or 3:30, because then the sun's not so intense. And then I would go to my favorite little beach. There was a dock there. I'd go swimming. I did that most days. And I would hang out there, swim when the sun was still up, and then hang out on the dock, watch the sunset. And then it was, 6 something, and I would go and get some food and then go back home and work a little bit more. So, I'd take off work a couple hours from what most people would think was a normal work day, a couple hours before 5, and I'd just make up for it, work until like 8 or 9.
So I actually wrote a sample schedule of this is going to be pretty flexible, but I wrote a sample schedule on the application form, where what I would personally do. And so let's say you want to enjoy some of the beach, but you still want to get stuff done and you still want to make your commitments. What you could do is you could wake up at like 7:30 or 8, like a normal time, go for a run on the beach. Go enjoy the beach for an hour, and then start work at 9. And you'll work on the resort, social media, and write a blog post and all these things for 3 hours. Then you can have lunch with all the other interns and other
right there
people
at the co-working space.
And it's going to be included. In the afternoons, I would work on whatever project you're working on until like 4 o'clock. And at 4, go to the beach.
If you go to the beach in Thailand every day at noon, you're not going to have any skin left.
I actually think it's probably better if, you're right, it's better if you wait till 4.
Yeah.
Because then you still have 2 or 3 hours on the beach, and you can do Muay Thai.
Yeah, totally.
You can run on the beach, play beach volleyball. Charlie's actually very into that.
He is. And he's actually bringing pros there to the island. He's doing all kinds of things with pro volleyball. They even have a kayak at the co-working space. So if you are working in the afternoon, you could take a half an hour and just go paddle around, take a little brain rest.
There you go.
It's right there. I mean, it's on a place called Bon Thai. You don't have to go to the beach. It's there. It's at the beach.
And did we mention this is free?
Yes.
Like it's almost honestly 100%. If you listen to this and you're committed to anything, or if you're not happy at your commitments and you want to start a new business, there's absolutely no reason why you should not move to this beautiful tropical island, live for free at a resort, eat for free, get a free co-working space membership in exchange for doing a couple of hours of work every day, which you should probably be doing anyways because you will learn from it.
You will, yeah. Or if you're already an expert in it, it'll be easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, if this whole concept is kind of blowing your mind or whatever, go check out the 4-Hour Work Week. Go check out back episodes of this podcast. Go check out the Travel Like a Boss podcast that Johnny's got. Because if you're only around people who aren't doing it, it will seem crazy. And if you ask those people about it, they will tell you it's crazy. But just like Johnny didn't talk to somebody coming off her third divorce about how to find a girlfriend, you want to talk to people who have done it about how to do it. Don't talk to all your friends that work 9-to-5s and are, they're all about their 401k and all that. I'm not saying that's wrong, but if you're up for something different, talk to people who are doing something different.
So what are some of the kind of like pessimistic mindsets that someone back home might encounter if they decide to do this?
I can think of so many. Okay. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for retirement? Who do you even know there? You're going to be lonely. Even though you're going to guaranteed you're going to meet 7 other people your first day.
Yeah.
Right? Not to mention all the time you're hanging out on the beach playing volleyball or going to the Muay Thai camp or whatever. What do you think? What objections?
It's been so long that I honestly can't even think of stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Because now, to me, like, as soon as you say it, I just brush it off.
The coup.
Yeah.
That was last year.
Okay. Because, we're actually still under a military coup.
Well, yeah. I think they technically lifted martial law.
Okay.
But the prime minister now is the former general who led the coup.
Okay.
So,
it doesn't matter. Like, it never mattered.
No.
Here's the thing is, okay, we're the most dangerous city in the world. Johannesburg, South Africa.
Okay.
Or one of them, maybe top 10 or something. Mm-hmm. And I was there visiting, over Christmas with my girlfriend, and her cousins, who are like early 20s, were saying, yeah, we would love to come to Thailand, but we heard it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Right.
Like, you live in the most dangerous city in the world.
Yeah.
Like, Thailand is nowhere. Like, it's all right. So everywhere in the world has dangerous places.
Yeah.
If you do, crazy things,
and they're usually really specific places. Like Chicago. Mm-hmm. You don't need a bulletproof vest to walk around downtown and take pictures of that big reflective jelly bean that they have. But there's certain neighborhoods where you probably don't want to be, especially at certain times, right? And I mean, it's the same way in every city.
Yeah.
And maybe in Thailand, you don't want to be riding 100 miles an hour on a motorcycle on the highways here with
no helmet.
Yeah. Then you do stand a good chance of dying.
Yep, 100%. So really, whatever crazy things people tell you, don't worry about them. I wrote literally 12 weeks in Thailand was all about that mindset change. It was like, how did I get over these fears? How did I quit my job? What did I do with my stuff? How did I budget? So if you guys do plan on moving out, I would encourage you guys to read that because it will help a lot. But whatever the mindset is, don't worry about it. Like I would say that's the motif of this is don't worry about it.
Yeah. What's a great one too to help people just relax about all the possible objections? Because I understand until you actually do it, we're two guys saying this. Your other friends back home are saying something else. It's intellectually maybe you should listen to us and believe us, but until you do it, just remember you can always go back home.
Yeah, and
it's not that
in the 4-Hour Work Week, Tim talks about if everything messes up, how long would it take you to get your life back to exactly where it was?
Yeah,
and that's honestly the one phrase that made me decide I'm gonna go do it, because even though I was giving up a lot, I had to give up a lease, I had to sell my stuff, I had to sell my car, I got rid of all my furniture, I had all this kitchenware, and even though it sucked, to be honest, I knew that if after 6 months, if I had a great time, if I had a great adventure, but I realized, that this is not sustainable, or if I hated it and I went back, it would not take me more than 2 months to get another job, to buy more furniture, to buy another car.
There's somebody who'd be happy to sell you a car and be happy to sell you some furniture. Absolutely.
And, you really, really have nothing to lose. I mean, you have so much. You have literally infinity to gain. Yeah. If I had stayed in the U.S. and stayed on track, and let's say I got a 10% raise every year, which is very good. Most people get like a 2% raise every year. Let's say I saved 20% of my income, which is way more than most people save. Yeah. Let's say like everything was going on the right track, I would not be anywhere close to where I am today. Happiness, travel, adventure, wealth, retirement fund, future thinking. There's no way I would have seen this many countries or met so many people, or what are the chances of me meeting the love of my life from freaking South Africa.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So I had that gamble. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give myself I actually gave myself 3 months. I didn't even give myself 6. I said, I'm gonna go out there, sell my stuff, and after 3 months, if I hate it, I'm gonna go back. And it's gonna take me 2 months to get everything back, but I'm willing to take that gamble.
Yeah.
And the gamble paid off 100-fold.
Right. I think risk is an interesting thing because different people have kind of different set points, how much risk they are willing to take and when they start getting scared. There's a little outside your comfort zone, which is that, get outside your comfort zone if you want to grow, right? But, I can't remember what book this was. Was it Gary Keller's book, maybe, The One Thing? But then further outside of your comfort zone, you have your panic zone, where you're not really effective anymore because you're just freaking out. And you can't think straight and all that. So that there's a sweet spot there to be outside your comfort zone where you're growing but not freaking out. And I think everybody has a different size bubble, their comfort zone. What was my train of thought there? You can always go back. Once you get here, I think you gave yourself the 3 months. Once you get over here, I told a particular person this who contacted me off of Couchsurfing and was going to be coming over here from Texas, and she was really scared because her friends and her family were all telling her, what if it doesn't work out? All this stuff that Johnny just talked about, you're going to sell your car, you're going to give up your apartment, blah, blah, blah. And I just told her, I said, just have faith that once you make the jump and get over here, you're going to meet so many people who have handled all those problems, and you're going to figure it out. You're going to have the people who will help you through it. You'll have that support network, basically.
Yep. 1 million%. And if you want, you can join Chiang Mai Digital Nomads on Facebook group.
Right.
And you can ask all the crazy questions that people will ask every day. Or just actually don't even ask it. Go look at what people are asking.
Yeah, there's a search bar.
There's a search bar because I promise you, whatever question that you have, someone has asked that before.
Yeah. Everybody's asking about visas and what neighborhoods to be in, what's the cost of living every month. And Johnny blogs about a lot of that stuff too. I want to ask you, Johnny, so we're talking about, what people are scared of and everything. And of course, everybody's road has some bumps in it, right? And you're really transparent. So what have been, have you had some trip ups and some failures, and how have you worked through that? What's happened?
Yeah, 100%. Everyone has trip ups and failures. And honestly, I think one of the ways I work through it is not thinking about it, because right now I'm trying to think about what I've failed on. And I know 100% there's things I failed on. I just don't remember.
Can't think of one? Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like it almost does not matter. Like I probably have 10 websites, 8 of them that I never update because, they were a failure, or they just weren't as big of a success as I was hoping they would be. Right. But what did I really lose?
Yeah. And what did you learn?
I learned a lot from them. They're still there.
What's really interesting? So say you spend, $50 on some software and a week working on something, or say you have a couple $100 into a particular website project and it doesn't work out. Some people would be like ashamed and stressed and freaking out and like grinding to try to make it work and everything. But the same person would have no problem paying like $1,000 or more for 1 quarter of school at a community college, right? You can learn on the job, and it's not necessarily even a failure. It's a learning experience. Yeah. A friend of mine used to always say, hey, I bought a seminar. In real estate, if he screwed up and lost some money on a project, because he liked to invest and do things in real estate, and that was his joke. If he lost a few $1,000, he goes, yeah, I bought a seminar last week. What do you mean? Oh, yeah, that property, I had to sell it at a loss, but whatever, moving on.
Yeah. That's a really, really good mindset.
Yeah.
Because, like now, so I don't have any regrets in life because I like exactly where I am today. I like who I am today.
Yeah.
Obviously, if I can go back and change things, there's plenty of things I wouldn't have wasted my time doing. Mm-hmm. Going to school. Honestly, I don't use my education at all, like literally zero. But maybe those 4 years, or actually took me like 5 or 6 years. Yeah. Maybe somehow that got me ready to this. I would say the biggest thing I learned from going to school is making that first move from San Francisco down to Orange County, which really is not far, and Like, it is insane to me thinking back how far I thought that was.
Yeah.
That was like a 8-hour drive. It's the same state.
It's like a whole nother world to you.
But yeah, in my mind, oh my goodness, it was like moving into a whole other world.
Yeah.
And now I live, I don't even know how many miles away from San Francisco in Thailand.
Right.
And I've lived on these small remote islands. I never lived in Koh Phangan, but I lived in Koh Tao, which is the island right next to it.
Yeah, even smaller.
You know, and I've lived, you know, on these weird, you know, random places. And now my boundaries and my fears are so little compared to where they were, but it took that first step. It took that first step of me saying, oh, I'm going to move away to school. I'm going to move away to college.
Well, and that little step probably helped give you the courage to take that other step that we just talked about, which was selling all your stuff in 3 weeks, going back to Thailand, and then being in Thailand, and you know you were fighting, and you were dive master. Those were all steps on the road. That, I mean, how did you get into the whole online? I mean, you were blogging about Muay Thai camps. I know that, right? And I think you were getting like free training or something to talk about, you know, review these camps and stuff. And then how did that transition into like making money rather than getting stuff for free? Or, you know, give us like the play-by-play from moving to Thailand and blogging about Muay Thai camps to being a dropshipper now and having a membership course thing going on.
So when I first came, I wanted to do scuba diving, you know, and I had only been diving one time, and I loved it, and I was angry at the world for not telling me how cool it was sooner. Okay. I was genuinely upset because I wrote a Facebook post, and I was like, I just went scuba diving. Why didn't anyone tell me this?
Right.
Like, how freaking amazing it is, and how easy it is. Like, literally, for $100, you can go to outer space. Like, to a whole new world. Yeah. And I was so angry because people would comment like, oh yeah, diving is great, you should have done it earlier. Or like, you know, just this, I was angry at society, I was angry at myself, I was angry at my parents. I was really upset that I had this, there was probably a 98% chance I would have had my whole life of never discovering it. If everything didn't align perfectly, I would have had my whole life and I never would have done it. And when I had decided, I was like, I'm all in. So I walked into the dive shop and I was like, I would like to be a dive master, which is like walking in and saying, I want to be a black belt.
Yeah, right.
They're like, oh yeah, you know, like, do you have your rescue, you know, are you a rescue diver yet?
You mean they were like, oh, so you're applying today, right? Yeah, right.
And I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, do you have your advanced open water yet? I'm like, no. It's like, do you even have your open water yet? I'm like, yep, just got it. And I was so far behind, but I knew I wanted to do it. So I did that for years, and I really loved it. But I also fell in love with Muay Thai, which is Thai kickboxing. And, you know, I've always been a fan of UFC. It was probably the first sport that I ever really watched. I always felt left out because I didn't like all the traditional sports. Sure. I never liked basketball or baseball or football. And I always felt left out. But when I first started watching UFC, especially when I watched The Ultimate Fighter, which is the reality show where they follow them around the camp and they live in a house together, I was like, I want to do that. And I found a place called Tiger Muay Thai in Phuket, who was pretty much like that, where you can live at the gym, you live at the camp, you eat there, you train there, and you hang out with all these other people. And man, I loved it.
So that's like the Muay Thai version of the internship program we're talking about.
Yeah, and I had to pay for that.
Okay, yeah.
But you know what?
And you had to get punched in the face too.
I had to get punched a lot. Well, that part I enjoyed at the time. But you know what? I figured out, hey, if I do social media for these guys, if I write reviews and make these little videos, I can train there for a big discount or sometimes for free.
You kind of created the same program that Charlie did in the Muay Thai
but
thing.
To myself, because no one else was offering it.
Right.
So that blog is still up. It's myfightcamp.com. I don't update it very often anymore, but tons of people still find it because I was one of the first people who was openly blogging about the experience and the gyms. And even though I was getting, free training or discounted training, I would write honest reviews. And
I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, 100%. But what I would do is I would first tell the owner, say, hey, this is what I'm going to write. But it's not going to go up for a week. If you want to make any changes to the gym,
step it up a little bit.
Do it now. And the thing is, if they, sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, sorry, we realize bathrooms aren't clean.
I was just going to say, if you don't want me to write about the cockroaches in the bathroom,
but then the people that don't write them, I'm like, well, here it is. And I'm never, I never want to go out and just be like one of those food critics, that's just a dick. But I would, write the pros and cons.
Yeah, sure.
And people would want to follow that, And I gotten so used to like saying, I don't even need money to live. And I remember for a while I was hanging out with this guy named Will Chope, who fought in the UFC once now. He had some unfortunate circumstances in his life, but he was living in the next hut next to me, and we were each paying $100 a month to live in these bamboo huts. And he would eat fried rice with pineapple every day for lunch and for dinner because it was the cheapest thing on the menu.
No meat, no eggs?
I think it had some egg in it.
Because you need some protein if you're training, right?
You know what? I'm sorry. It had some chicken and some...
Okay.
That's a little bit of egg in it.
Sure.
But it was like 30 baht. It was like $1.
Yep.
And I decided, hey, let me try this as well. Let me try to live as cheaply as possible.
Yep.
And I traveled with him from Phuket up to Bangkok to train at this other gym, 13 Coins. And I read all about this in the book. So even if you're actually not into Muay Thai, you might still kind of just enjoy the stories behind it. But I was living I was in the attic of the gym. So like where they would hang the heavy bags, I was above that in this attic. And there was rats up there that I had to scare away before I would go up.
And no AC, right?
Definitely no AC.
And it must be hot.
You know what?
Maybe?
Yeah, it was hot, but I think I was just used to it,
Sure.
And the worst part of it was just like creaky bamboo ladder that would go up. And at the middle of the night, I didn't want to have to climb. It was high.
If you have to take a leak, you got to go down a bamboo ladder?
Yeah. And I didn't want to do that, so I used to pee off the balcony. It wasn't even a balcony, it was basically out the window.
Yeah.
Into just the flowers.
Sure.
And I was happy, I would say, but not really. I wasn't happy in my life. I was just happy getting to do these cool experiences, But I think kind of around that time, my body was getting a little bit destroyed. Like Muay Thai is a very hard sport, like you're getting beat up all the time, physically, mentally. Your joints hurt. You start getting a lot of cortisol on your muscles, and you start just like I started gaining weight. Like even though I was working out 3 hours a day, I was running 3 miles a day, I started gaining weight because my body was like inflamed all the time. Just wasn't it just wasn't in a good place. And I decided I was like, I can't do this anymore, but I don't know where else to go because all I have is this Muay Thai blog that gets me a discount or free accommodation, and I don't want to teach scuba diving anymore because even though I loved it, I absolutely genuinely loved it for 4 years. After about 700 dives and after taking people out over and over as a beginner, I was just burnt out from it. I was like, you know what, I don't want to teach someone how to drive again for the first time. And I was stuck. I had no idea what to do. I was living in Chiang Mai, which thankfully is cheap, but I think that mentality of trying to get by as cheap as possible was holding me back. And I was like, I'm broke. I was down a couple $100 in my bank account, and I had no ticket home even, and I had no real options, And I was like, okay, I can write a book about my blog. I can turn it into an ebook. And that was kind of the first saving grace. I stayed in my room. I think I was still training a little bit while writing the book.
And that's 12 weeks in Thailand.
That's 12 weeks in Thailand. And it's called The Good Life on the Cheap.
And you had, at that point, you had been there 12 weeks? Or training that long?
So the reason why I called it that is I would go for 3 months at a time.
Okay.
And for scuba diving, I would go for 3 months, and you can go basically from zero to hero and become from never been diving to a dive master in 3 months if you do it full time.
Okay.
You can go from being a white belt in jiu-jitsu to a blue belt if you train full time for 3 months.
Let me ask you on the diving thing. Somebody out there must have been really through it. I can do that. I could do that. 3 months full time. What is that? I mean, if it's $100 for one dive, what is 3 months full time going to cost?
Well, that's kind of the trick to it. Is if you went diving, because you need a minimum of 60 dives to be a dive master, as well as you have to do all these certifications and tests and everything. But those 60 dives might cost you $6,000 or $3,000.
I can't believe how few that is.
It's actually not that much.
It's like once you drive to the store 60 times, you can be a driving instructor.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but the trick is the dive master course is only like $1,000 or $1,500.
Okay.
So it's actually not that expensive.
Yeah.
But mainly because it's actually also an internship. So like you're expected to carry tanks and like like help out and stuff. So it was cheaper for me to become a dive master than actually just go diving.
So you're going with the dive master and the people who are just paying to go out for the day.
Yes.
And you're schlepping all the stuff around.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's another little trick: is if you guys want an internship and be a dive master for free on Koh Phi Phi, which is the other side of Thailand, pretty much all of the shops have some type of internship where you can basically go and commit to I think 3 months, and you can become a dive master for free.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking if I'm them, this is a really valuable skill in life too. You know, how can you help, right? Like, what do they need? What can I do for them? And it's not really costing them. It's a benefit to them. And what can I get from it? Like, they've got a bunch of tanks sitting in their little office anyway. And why wouldn't they want some guy who's enthusiastic to carry stuff and probably tell other people on the island about the tour they're doing and all that? I mean, they're going to give you some air?
If you can provide value.
Yeah.
Really with anything in life, people will take it.
Like the Muay Thai guy, he's already got the gym there. It's one more guy who's enthusiastic and telling everybody else about it. Yeah.
And till this day, all those gyms get a ton of visitors from the blog post I wrote, like the map that I created. Like most of these places didn't have freaking maps to get to the gym.
Right.
It was like in watching Karate Kid back in the day or something, where if you want to go train in China or something,
you have to get in a street fight, and then once he breaks your nose, go, where did you learn to do that? Right?
Yeah, like there was no real way to get to the gym. And this is insane. This is Chiang Mai. It's like it's a big big city, but the gym that I went to, KC Muay Thai, was a small gym run by a local Thai guy named Chun, and he had no map presence at all. And it was so difficult to find the place the first time that when I was there, I was like, oh, let me create a map. And till this day, that's how people find the gym.
Great. This is, again, bringing me back to the thing Charlie's going to be doing. A lot of these hotels, they literally don't even read their own TripAdvisor reviews because they don't realize that so many people are using TripAdvisor. Maps. And it's weird in Thailand, they'll just put on their website next to whatever temple, instead of the map. Because around here, it's bizarre, but you can show a taxi driver a map. People that are college educated, you can send them a map, using Facebook or whatever, and they're just like, what's it next to? They literally just don't use them. But anyway, it's pretty easy to add value because you're coming from that perspective of their potential clients or customers.
But I think that's kind of the important thing about this is you have to add value. You don't just ask what's in it for me.
Right.
It's what can I give back as well.
Yep.
So the reason why, let's say, Charlie's doing this is. Well, why the resorts doing this, as you kind of touched on, is they have these empty rooms anyways. And the thing about Koh Phangan is even though they are sold out every month during the full moon party, which is like 3 or 4 or 5 days, for the other 25 days, the occupancy rates are 90% or higher. And they want, vacancy rates, right? Yeah. But the thing about Koh Phangan is there's actually so much more to it than just the party.
It's true.
It's a beautiful island, great beaches. There's starting to be a big yoga scene. Definitely.
There's sort of a particular area of the island where a lot of that's concentrated, and you get all your organic, locally made, honeys and wine and all that stuff. I'm almost hesitating to put this out on the podcast, but it's great. I'll tell you all about it because Koh Phangan has grown a lot, even since I've been going there for 10 years. Anyway, there's this place called the Dome where they have this acoustic dome sauna and a place. You ever go there?
I've never been there.
There's a campfire every night, and they have organic and different kinds of vegan treats. They bake it every day. You can hang out and sit around the campfire, go in and out of the sauna. It's super mellow. It's the opposite of what people think of that island.
But you know what? The party is cool too.
It is, yeah.
And the thing is, I would actually so 5 or 10 years ago, I think if I had came back in, if I was early 20s, I would say absolutely. Why not work 25 days, most of the month, and then have really get work done, and then be like, all right, well now let me have fun for a few days. You're already there.
And there's and it's not just that party. I mean, there's something going on basically every night on that island. Littler things.
Yeah, I would say definitely. I would maybe a couple of weeks of the month, the half moon party and then the whatever moon party. Right. But I would say this is a good place to to ask yourself, okay, what value can I give them, right?
Yeah.
Like, can I help them build up their social media presence? Can I help with their Facebook page, their Twitter page? Can I take some photos? And the thing is, it'd be nice. I think during the application they'll ask what skills you have, and it'd be great if you can make videos or you can do great photography.
Sure.
But to be honest, even if you just have an iPhone, you can do better photos than probably what they have on their site now, which is probably not that much.
And another way to add value, like one of the reasons that Charlie is excited about this is, it'll bring awareness to the island as a whole. Mm-hmm. And, if you have buddies that come visit you and work at the co-working space, and you'll be adding value to that community of people, bringing people with skills and ideas and enthusiasm in.
And even though I'm a big supporter of the community in Chiang Mai, and I've probably personally brought quite a few people or influenced quite a few people.
I know you have. Yeah.
I have this abundance mentality where I'm like, well, just because I'm now also telling people to go to Koh Phangan doesn't mean any less people are going to come to Chiang Mai.
No, they'll just split time a little bit, check them both out. Yeah,
like really, why not? And so I'm not going to be directly involved. I'm actually just doing this, and just same with Dan too. Like, we have no financial incentive to promote this. We're doing it because we think it's a cool thing. Like, we really want people to, to move out here, to have some of the same experiences we've had, and be able to enjoy this. Because I would have loved to do it. Like, when I was starting out, 100% I would have jumped on it.
Yeah, I think a year and 4 months ago I would have done it.
Yeah.
I love that. I was there anyway for part of that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but what we're both going to do is we're both going to go down, probably separately, but we're going to go down and live down there for a month at a time. So, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks at a time, and then just enjoy it as well, network, meet people, and then lead all the interns. So the way it's going to work is, like, every morning at, let's say, 9 o'clock, we're going to meet at CoSpace, the co-working space, and we're going to say, okay, hey everyone, today the goal is going to be to write a blog post about some activities on the island. Today's topic is going to be scuba diving on Koh Phangan, and or like one day it might be like, all right, let's write about beach volleyball today. And your job is to go take photos of people playing beach volleyball, write a blog post about it, and then post it on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever it is. And I think it's gonna be fun to kind of just have this like army, kind of like this internet digital nomad army built up.
Yeah. And
see these people kind of grow, because whatever they're going to end up doing, they're going to remember that listening to this show gave them the courage and the kind of the first step to do it.
You know what I want to say too? I just remembered this. I've seen a lot of people come a long way just in the year that I've been here. People came over here fresh to attend some kind of conference or something, and they were just in the learning phase, and now they're making it. They're paying their bills with what they're doing online. But there's one particular guy who I know was a bit discouraged because he was doing an e-commerce store similar to what Johnny does. If you guys are familiar with drop shipping, it's that kind of a thing. And basically, just to give you the 10-second version, drop shipping is when you make a website and you sell stuff on the website, but you don't actually carry the inventory. So you have a relationship with the brand, the manufacturer. You sell, blue snowball microphones like the one I'm using right now. When the person places the order, you get the money, you send the wholesale amount to the manufacturer, and they ship it direct, so you never even touch it. So anyway, I know a guy who was going to be doing that, and he was discouraged because he wasn't confident any longer in the particular niche that he had chosen. So he chose to sell a particular item that he actually later learned other people had tried the same thing, and it bummed him out because he was thinking, well, shoot, if people that have been doing this longer than me couldn't make it work, it's not going to work for me. But what I want to tell him, I need to meet him in person and talk about this, but it's like almost anything in life, you have to be ready to fall on your face, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 100 times or whatever to get to the one that works. And I would say with, drop shipping in particular, if you go into it with a proven method, which, our buddy Anton has that, if you go in with a course like that, that has been successful for other people, and you're willing to, pick a bad niche or 2 or 3 before you get one that works, you will be successful. It's not if. It's just a matter of which niche will work for you. So I think you need to have that kind of a mentality when you come over here. You might try a couple things that don't work out as well as you hoped, but keep an open mind. Nice sound effects, Johnny. That was just our soundboard here. I'm pretending like I'm just pretending somebody used the toilet. So tell me what you think about this, Johnny. But if you come into drop shipping or a lot of other things, just assuming that, hey, I am willing to fail 3 times in a row before I make the one that works, and I'm going to allot a few months to do that, then you will make it work.
100 million%. Actually, one guy on the probably member forums of Anton's course decided to make his first niche public to the guys in the forum, which Anton actually doesn't suggest. He's like, you know what, like you don't want because it's pretty easy actually to copy other people's stores, because you're like, oh, that's working, let me do the exact same thing. Right. And especially because Anton shows exactly how to do it. So he normally says, don't openly talk about it. But this one guy is like, you know what, I'm thinking long term. Yeah. Let me have my first one be public to other members so they can help me out with it. Mm-hmm. And if it becomes a success, awesome, because it'd be a success, and maybe I wouldn't have been successful in the first place. Yeah. But now I have all this knowledge. I know exactly what to do. I've learned so much. I can always start a second or a third store on my own and not make it a public thing.
Right.
And to me, I was like, man, I never thought of that. Yeah. Like that makes so much sense, because everyone was so excited to help him. Like everyone would, because he would put his link up in the site, and then people were like, oh yeah, you should add this. You should, rewrite your About Us page. Right. You should add the phone number here. You should do this. And he's a success. He's making sales now. And the thing is, because he's so open about it in the forums, and everyone in the community is really cool, probably no one is going to go and compete with him, especially because they know openly what he's selling. But 100% now he has knowledge to do a second or third store, because he's gotten all this help. Right. So I know for a fact if that's your strategy, it will work 1 million%, as long as you follow people's advice.
Yeah, you can't expect to bat 1,000, right? I mean, just be prepared. Yeah. And like with drop shipping in particular, and with whatever else, it might take you a month or 2 to get your first store up and going. And, if you figure out it's not a real, great niche or whatever, the second one might take you a few weeks or something.
And you know what? I don't know if the guy you were talking about was evident or not, but like he wasn't doing that great of his niche, and he was like, a little bit discouraged and unhappy, because he was like, it's not the greatest niche. Other people weren't doing well with it, so he ended up selling that site on some auction site, and he got like $9,000 or $8,000 for that site that wasn't doing very well.
Great.
And
that's a pretty good worst case scenario, right?
Which is insane if you think about it, because he spent 2 months working on it. Sure. But so he spent $1,000 on the course. He probably spent $200 building the website, and then 2 months, getting it up and running. And it wasn't doing well, and he was unhappy in the niche. So he's like, let me sell it and let me start over. But guess what? In those 2, maybe even let's say it's 3 months, he got an education that's worth the whatever it costs to go to college for. He got an MBA in those couple of months, and he got paid to do it. Yeah. And now he has the knowledge to do another store.
And this all touches on the whole mastermind principle too. If you've ever read Think and Grow Rich, they always talk about the mastermind principle. Napoleon Hill kind of coined that term and made it famous. But getting around the right people, which we've already talked about on this episode, in particular with this course that Johnny's talking about, AntonMethod.com, right? Yeah. Johnny's an affiliate of this course. He's done it himself. What they have going there, I actually joined the course too. I honestly haven't done much with it. Doesn't mean I don't like it. But I'm an affiliate too, but I haven't made a website. So go to AntonMethod.com if you're curious about that. But what I'm getting at is, I think the most powerful thing about the course, the videos are great, the information is great, that's all cool, and that gets you started, gets you in motion. But the forum, there's a forum of people, which Johnny talked about, where this guy was asking for feedback on his site. You can get the most specific advice from, hundreds of other people doing exactly what you're doing. I mean, this isn't just like general advice. This is like, go to this link and use this plugin, and I use this theme and it cost me this much. And, that is so powerful to have a community like that. So this is one example of it. A lot of people, the last episode I talked with a guy named David Lang. He's in several mastermind groups. They meet either weekly or monthly. Some of them he's paying tens of thousands of dollars a year to be in them. And there are other CEOs and things that he's dealing with that he gets feedback and encouragement from, and that drafting effect where you're watching people take off and go, and it makes you want to do it too. So I actually plug for myself here. I lead mastermind groups.
Like, how do people join your mastermind groups?
At odonlife.com, there's a tab you'll see for mastermind and coaching.
Okay.
And you can join up there. Right now, we have availability in one group that's focused on this location-independent stuff. We don't just talk about business, though. If you're having any kind of personal thing going on, you can choose to use your time to talk about that. We do end up talking about business projects a lot, of course, just because of the people that are in there. But and it's a no-brainer. $60 a month. You can get a discount if you sign up for a quarter. And I mean, again, this guy David paying tens of thousands for some of his groups. But masterminds, if you don't know the idea, it's usually weekly, sometimes every other week or monthly. You get together. One of the first things you do is you check in on the commitments that you made last time. So we're going to hold you accountable. It's like you don't want to be the guy who shows up without doing your homework, right? Yep. So you show up and you tell us how your progress has been, and then we get into brainstorming and helping you with whatever, if you're kind of stuck on something or you need perspective, we get in, each person has an allotment of time for that, and then towards the end, and this is the abbreviated version, but towards the end, you're making your commitments for the following meeting, whether it's next week or next month, depending on the group. And I've seen it over and over. People it might be something they would eventually get done, but they just do it so much faster.
Yeah. 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in masterminds, and the thing is, I've always heard of these things. I like all the things that I do now that work. Unfortunately, I've heard of these like 10 years ago, and I just never did it. You know, like writing down goals, having a mastermind group, taking a course, reading a book.
Right.
These are all things that like almost are common sense. We just try to find reasons not to do it, or excuses, or look for shortcuts.
Yeah.
And it's almost like what you were saying earlier about, if you're on the field and you want to go to the top of the hill.
Yeah, you can't always see the mountaintop from the valley.
Yeah, so you're in the valley, you want to get to the mountaintop. Just start walking. Just figure it out as you're going. Ask for help. While you're going up. Join a program. To get up there. Yeah. Do something. But what you don't want to do is circle around the valley. Yeah. Looking for shortcuts.
Right,
because if every time you take one step up the mountain,
you can't move the mountain closer to you, right?
Yeah. And that's what people are trying to do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that is what people are trying to do.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest advice I would have given to myself when I was in high school. Is don't try to move that mountain closer to me.
Right.
It's not possible.
Yeah, you get a guide, you buy a map,
just do it.
You get in with some other guys that are hiking to the same place. That's what all these things are that you're doing.
Yeah.
That time when you had the guts to click, here's $1,000 for this course, and I'm going to do it even though I'm going on vacation. You got in with a bunch of people who are going the same direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah. It's working. And man, I met you about a year and a half ago, and I mean, that's what your last book is about, is how life changes fast. And that's the name of it, right?
Life Changes Quick.
Life Changes Quick. And that's on Amazon.
Yep.
But it really does, man.
It does.
You've done so much. I mean, I'm sure 6 months from now, this podcast will be kind of dated because you'll be doing, 3 or 4 different things. And we'll have to do this again, I'm sure. I wanted to not forget to talk about something that really helped me out in the last week. And we also need to draw a card from Better Me. But a couple of things that kind of fit together here. I was venting recently, more than once, about a stressful situation for me. Johnny's had to listen to it a little bit. Some of my other friends, in the last week had to listen to it too. And I got to the point where I literally said out loud, I go, you know what? If I was you guys, I would be sick of hearing me talk about this, so I'm going to shut up now. But it felt good to vent for a little while on it. It's just a frustrating personal situation. But one of my friends, he was pretty blunt about it, and it was kind of funny, but he just goes, he put the responsibility back on me, and he said, let me ask you this. After I just described the whole situation and why I was right and how I had been wronged and all this stuff, he said, why are you letting it bug you? And I thought, yeah, okay, well, I kind of just told you why, right? And then he goes, yeah, but you're the one letting it bug you. And he was right. And so I was thinking about it that night, and I'm like, okay, I know intellectually I should just not let it bug me. I get that. But how am I going to actually do that? I need a way to actually do it. And then what I decided was that night, I wrote basically like a letter, but it was an email. I wrote a fairly long email, which was actually in reply. I'm being very vague here. I don't know. That's how I chose to be today. I might get more open about it later, but in response to basically a threat and a thread of emails of just like toxic, like everything just intended to hurt me, to bother me, to get under my skin, I responded. I like did my Zen, breathe in, breathe out, and I just responded with nothing but like forgiveness. I wish you the best, like sending this with love, everything. Like it was like the Matrix when the bullets are coming at me and I'm just in slow motion dodging them. Like I'm just not going to let them hit me, And I just avoided like spewing that negativity back. And I wrote and I said what I had to say and I sent it. And I thought right after it, I felt so much better because what I did, and this is the thing my friend said, was, just take the high road. And I did. And I took the high road. And, I gave up the thing about needing to win. Because if I was trying to win, I would have gone back with a bunch of counterpoints and tried to debate it. And here's why you're wrong and I'm right. But I just said, forget it. Basically the summary is I wish you all the best. I forgive you for anything. Yeah. I'm over it. I'm done. All the best. Happy trails. Not in like a snarky way, just like a genuine way. And I felt so much better immediately after hitting send because I took what control I had over the situation and controlled my reaction to it and just kind of finished it. And then I actually got another email in response to that one, which was also toxic and trying to be hurtful and all that. And I just fucking deleted it. It's the first time I've cussed on this podcast. I fucking deleted it. Good. And that's all I did.
Good.
And it's been days and I haven't responded and I'm not going to.
That's fantastic.
And I deleted this individual's phone number and all that and it's just done now. And holy crap, I feel better. And can I want to hear your thoughts on this too, but the day, I think maybe 2 days after I did that, I was listening to something on SoundCloud, which I listened to on my way to the gym and whatever. It was Ram Dass. You ever heard of him? No. Cool guy. He's an older gentleman. A lot of people look up to him. He worked at Harvard with Timothy Leary. He was a big hippie psychedelic leader guy. Became like this Buddhist guru basically. Really cool guy. Anyway, he was saying his guru told him back when he was young and still really egotistical, he had all these people he was angry at who had wronged him, and he was right. And intellectually and in a debate mode, he was right, and they did do something screwed up. But his guru said, don't work on it, let it go. And so that really hit home with me, to just let it go. You don't need to fix it and then let it go. You just let it go.
I like it.
So what do you think about all that?
Well, so I had a really, really hard time dealing with any type of negativity in my whole life. I've always wanted everyone to like me.
Yeah.
And I used to take things so personally. Even from strangers or even from someone anonymous.
Sure. Well, I bet YouTube and blogging has a lot of that type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
You get a lot of that.
And well, here's the thing is, I used to really take it to heart, think and then respond and try to win them over. But I don't know how long ago it was, maybe within this last year, I just said, you know what, I don't need this negativity in my life. Yeah. For a couple different reasons. One is usually people are unhappy with their own lives, especially if they're going to post something anonymously online. They're probably unhappy with their own lives and they're just trying to take it out somewhere. Yeah. Other times they might be a 13-year-old kid. They just don't know any better.
Yeah.
But in general, the question is, the person putting the negativity out there, are they actually better off or more successful than you? And the answer is almost always no. If someone is successful, they're not going to even have the time or energy to comment on you, especially online and honestly. So I've just kind of made it a rule now. If someone, and thank the Lord, I don't get it very often, probably once every 3 months or 6 months.
Wow, that's really good. Yeah.
I'm actually kind of surprised because I don't want to welcome it in, but I think it's because I never respond to it.
Yeah.
You don't feed the trolls.
Right.
If someone leaves a negative comment or something, I just delete it now. I don't even look at it. I figure as long as the majority of the comments are positive and people are happy, then I'm like, well, I can't please everyone. If I get 10 5-star reviews saying people love the book and like it's changed their lives, it's helped them decide to come to Thailand.
Yeah.
And then I get one person who doesn't even write a 3-star review or 2-star review saying like, hey, this could have been better, and they automatically go for the 1 star and they're like hateful about it. I'm like, well, you know what? Obviously, this book is not a 1 star. If 50 other people think it's 5 stars, and they are upset for whatever reason. You know what? There's nothing I can do. I cannot make that one person happy.
Yeah.
If they want to get their money back from Amazon, they can. It's pretty easy to.
As a buyer on Amazon, when I'm looking at stuff, I anticipate if they have more than 10 reviews, there's going to be at least one 1-star review, and I don't care.
Yeah.
If there's as many 1-star reviews as like 5-star reviews, then it's concerning. But there's always some percentage of that.
And it's so weird that there's no 2-star reviews or 3-star reviews ever.
Yeah.
It's always
You're right. It's 5, 4, and 1, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's like for both of my books, they're pretty much all 5-star.
Okay.
With a couple 4 stars.
Yeah.
And I welcome 4 stars. I'm like, you know what? I know. Everything's not perfect.
Those tend to be the people with the constructive criticism.
Yeah.
They're like, it's pretty good, but I would have liked to hear a little more about how you did this.
Yes.
And they give you 4.
Yeah. And I'm
which
like,
is useful.
and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know it's not perfect.
Right.
Nothing's perfect.
Right.
But then the 1 stars, I just ignore it because I'm like, this person is just unhappy at their own lives. I just completely ignore it. I delete it, and don't let it affect me anymore. And that one thing has helped me probably most because now I'm not afraid to put things out there because I know I already expect it. I'm like,
sure.
For every 50 people that I help that are genuinely appreciative, there's going to be one person who hates my guts for whatever reason. Yeah. And I think I'm finally at a point where I'm content with myself. I can look people in the eye and I know I'm a good person and I know I'm a loving boyfriend. I know I'm successful. I know I can take care of my family, my parents now. And I know overall I'm a good person. I'm not perfect. I fuck up all the time. But I'm pretty good person overall. And that's not, some person saying something is not going to affect that.
I heard a saying one time that reputation is what others think of you, and character is what you know of you.
And it took me a long time to figure out what my character was. Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, it's been a kind of bumpy road, and I think first moving out to Thailand was a way for me to reset and say, you know what, I don't know who the heck I am. I've spent all this time trying to find shortcuts, and now I have a second chance. Yeah. And the thing I learned most from, I would say the one thing I learned most from scuba diving is how to go from 0 to mastering a skill. Yeah. And I don't think before that I've never really went all the way. I've always kind of, got okay at something. I never really mastered anything. Right. And then the one thing I learned most from Muay Thai is you cannot lie in the ring.
If you haven't been training, it's going to show, right? Yeah. That's interesting. Very, very transparent. And I want to point out to people who don't know all about your story too that when Johnny came over to Thailand, he didn't, he made a big leap because he didn't just leave some job at a fast food restaurant. Like, you had a pretty good gig going, didn't you? You had a pretty nice set of wheels and everything was, what a lot of people would think success looks like. You had that. You had graduated from college. You had what was that, Honeywell or what? Yeah, you worked at Honeywell. A lot of people, that's exactly, I want to graduate, get a job at Honeywell, have a nice car, I have security, I can put money aside for retirement. Yeah, so you didn't just leave, he wasn't just some drifter that was looking for somewhere to live.
Yeah, and maybe it would have been easier, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think, I think I got lucky because I think for most people it takes them, let's say, 15 to 20 years to get to that point where they have the job at the company that they want, they have the car that they want, they have the house, living in the house that they want, and then they realize they're not happy. And then they have commitments, they're older. Yeah. I think I got lucky where I kind of just fell into some of this stuff when I was, early 20s, mid 20s. And when I was 27, I was like, well, this is it. I mean, it's not going to get that much better. Right. I mean, I can get, I can, instead of renting the house, I can own the house and have a mortgage. Instead of having an older Lexus, I can have a newer Lexus, Yeah. And I just didn't see it going anywhere. And that's what gave me the courage to say, if that's not going to make me happy, what is?
Yeah, that's important too, because I think, everybody has their own definition of success, and whatever yours is, maybe it is the new Lexus and working your way up management in a Fortune 500 company. Great, cool, but just actually take some time to think about, is your definition of success what you put there, or did somebody else put it there? Did commercials put it there? Did your family put it there? Did your teacher in high school put it there? What's really success for you? What are you shooting for?
And here's the thing is, okay, so I'm a firm believer, and I would argue that this is fact, is to a certain amount of money, you need to have a certain amount of money, both in income and also maybe in savings, to feel at ease and be happy.
Yeah. They've done studies on that. True.
I firmly believe that.
Food in your belly and the roof over your head.
Yeah, like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, just the basics.
Right.
But then after that, it doesn't really matter that much. I think for me, I'm kind of in a weird place right now, to be honest. I actually have more money in my bank than I know what to do with. It's kind of just sitting there. And it stresses me out to try to think, should I buy a house? Should I invest it? Because it's not enough to go out and buy, let's say like a apartment block where I know I can cash flow and invest that way. But it's more than I've ever had, and now I'm kind of like, my income is good, but it's not. But as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
It can either go 10 times higher or it can go to zero, and that's kind of one of those scary things, So now I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do, and I've been kind of just drifting the last 2 months while working on this new course, because I'm like, if we're gonna talk about transparency, my blog is pretty much 100% transparent.
Yeah.
But there are things in the course where I'm going to show people like week by week, like my actual dashboards inside, like my actual, like pretty much 1,000%. They're going to be able to just know my soul, and I know that's going to be another big gamble. Like I think every time you want to kind of level up and say, I'm doing this now. Should I risk all of it? Should I double down on the next step? It's a big gamble.
I was just listening to James Altucher's podcast, and he had Neil Strauss on, the guy that wrote The Game, and he did the book about a couple bands and
Motley Crue,
Jenna Jameson, all these kind
Emergency,
of things.
Which is a great book.
Used to write it in the New York Times, I think. They were talking about how their best writing was always stuff where they weren't sure if they should write it, and they were uncomfortable. And they were like, it's almost like you should only write about things that you're uncomfortable writing about, because the other stuff in the middle is just kind of like everybody else's stuff, Like when Neil Strauss put out that book, The Game, he was like, oh God, do I really want to tell people about this world that I was in? It's all about what do they call it again?
Pickup artists.
Pickup artists, yeah. And that's a big thing to put out there. You're going to get judged for sure. Some people are going to hate you, like you said. But anyway, so I think they would agree with what you're doing. Just put yourself out there. And
you know what? If you never hear from me again, it didn't work. But if you see me, on the cover of some Millionaire magazine, then it did work.
Yeah.
So.
And that feeling that you have where you've got this cash, like, what am I going to do with it? Like, I should be doing something with it. There are, most people, like, the conventional wisdom is like, put your money to work, get it invested, put it in real estate, put it in stocks, put it in bonds, whatever. Invest it in businesses, like, get it out there. It's just, it's wasting away just sitting there. But then there are other people, like, I think Mark Cuban is one of these guys, and there are some really well-off guys. They're really big. They call it dry powder. You've got dry powder, like gunpowder. Yeah. Like, that's power. And when you come across a great opportunity, you're ready. Yeah. And if you just put everything in like some mutual funds, and then some guy comes to you with an amazing opportunity, like, damn, I just put all that money away. I don't know. It might not be a bad thing.
Yeah. Actually, I'm almost kind of betting on the economy crashing someday in the next couple of years. And if the stocks drop by more than 30%, maybe they drop by 50% again, I'm going to go just put all my money in the total stock index, like Vanguard, VTI, and I'm just going to let it roll. And that's almost kind of like what I'm betting on. So I think I'm finally at a point where I don't really care that there's money in the bank. It's just there, and I'm putting a little bit in every month. Yeah. But you're right. I'm just leaving it there for an opportunity.
Yeah, you can be an opportunist here. Yeah, cool.
But I think also by having that buffer, now it allows me to be comfortable making these risks and these these new ventures. Yeah. Because what I like about the internet and all these businesses is really nothing costs that much to make.
It's true.
It's mainly just time.
A lot of it's just subscription software. $25 a month, $50 a month.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work in 3 months, you turn it off.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so much easier than, like, let's say starting a restaurant or starting a flea market or starting a physical business. We have to rent a place, buy inventory, buy furniture, buy things.
Yeah, I almost tried to take like the internet. I had a flea market. That's why Johnny said that. I went around and talked to some guys, and I rented half of what used to be a Safeway supermarket. And I can't remember all the specifics, but I could get out of that lease in like 60 days or something. And they could kick me out in 90, I think. Okay. So we both had like a limit on it. In commercial real estate, a lot of times people are doing like 5-year leases, 10-year leases. Walmart does 99-year leases. And, people were looking at me weird, like, well, why shouldn't it be the same? We should be able to kick you out in 90 days, or you should have to give us 90 days notice. It's like, no, look, I had probably talked about it on the podcast, I had a project down in Texas go bad. Yeah. And I learned my lesson about fixed expenses and question mark income. And the flea market was not at all proven. There was nothing in Bellingham like it. And I thought it should work, but I didn't want to be tied into a 5-year commercial lease if it didn't work. And so, I just negotiated it all so that if it went down the tubes, I could pull out with minimal risk. And the cool thing about a flea market is all you do, literally, I went around with a tape measure and tape, like masking tape and electrical tape or duct tape, and marked corners on the floor. And it's up to the vendor to bring in their own tables and chairs and shelves,
Yeah.
And we had to have like a counter, like for the office area, like the main place people come and sign in and stuff. We had a little of that, but pretty much our job was just to like put the marks on the floor.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
That's actually like, what airline was it that did that too? They only had one plane, and it was a short lease, and they're like, let's just see if it's going to work.
Wait a second. Was that how Virgin started?
It might have been. Either that or it might have been, it's either Southwest or Virgin. I don't remember.
They
now.
only had they might have started with just one route. I've read some of Richard Branson's stuff and his biographies. I love biographies. I think what planted the seed in his mind was he was going to, I want to say it was somewhere in the Bahamas, and he was in a hurry because he had like a hot date basically in the Bahamas. He was meeting some girl there, and his plane, I don't know if it was like mechanical or whatever, it was delayed or it wasn't going to go, it wasn't going to happen. So he walked around in this little airport and went to where you charter flights and said how much for a plane to where he was already wanting to go. Yeah. And they said X amount. And then so he went back to the gate where all the people were pissed off and going, oh my God, how are we going to get there? And he said, hey, I'm selling tickets for my flight to the same place for X amount. Yeah. And he got enough people to pay that amount that he could pay the charter and put a little bit in his pocket, and they still got there. That was like his first airline experience. And that's what Charlie told me on Copenhagen. He was there. He was in a similar position to you, like a couple $100 left. What am I going to do? He didn't want to go back. And so he pulled a Richard Branson, basically, went to a guy with a long-tail boat, which are like the traditional Thai boats, and he said, how much to go out for the whole day with my friends? And the guy said 1,000 baht. And so then he went down to the beach and approached a bunch of pretty girls and said, my friends and I are going out on a boat tomorrow. It's 300 baht each. And he got like half a dozen girls to say, yeah, I'm in. Okay, cool. Give me 300 baht. And they did. And then that allowed him, he didn't actually have his buddies going yet. So then now that he had the pretty girls committed, then he went and talked to guys that he knew and said like, hey, we're going out on a long tail. I've got like 6 pretty girls going. You want to come? And
500 baht each.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And so they all said sure. And he said he went home. They went out and had fun all day, which is something he wanted to do anyway. And then he came home at night and like threw a wad of cash on his bed and was like, that worked. Yeah. Let's do it again.
I love it.
And now he has a magazine and a realty company and doing the internship thing. That's the same guy I was talking about with the internship program. So, yeah, I mean,
I'm excited.
Figure it out.
Yeah, honestly, I think I had that saying to myself, like, ever since I can remember, like, I'll just do it and I'll figure it out. And I've always had that confidence. Yeah. And at some point I lost it. I don't know when it was or what it was. It's probably right after college, when I felt like I had to be responsible. Yeah. I lost that. And now it's back, so I'm very happy. But don't ever lose it. Don't ever lose the confidence in yourself that you'll figure it out.
I listened to something, maybe it was your podcast or a video of yours that you made or whatever, and that it hit home with me when you said, I don't always know what exactly I'm going to do, but I know I can figure it out. And I was like, I really like that. That really stuck with me. So I'm muting my phone, which I set right next to the microphone and forgot to turn off, which is very unprofessional of me. Yeah, that's a big takeaway. I hope that everybody here already has a couple takeaways. I think we've covered some good stuff.
I think we've given a lot of takeaways.
Yeah, and I think we've got enough to do another episode for sure sometime.
But let's pull a Better Me card, because I'm actually excited to do that.
I've actually pulled one that I like, if you're cool with it. It's a heart card. Is that good?
Okay.
What does courage mean to you? Who is courageous? 1 point for drawing this card and sharing. All players are welcome to share.
So first, I really enjoy playing Better Me.
Thank you.
If anyone hasn't played it, I 100% recommend it. Especially you can just play it on your computer. You can do it literally now.
BetterMeGame.com.
Right.
And thank you for the shout out in your video.
Yeah, it was fun to make, anyways.
Yeah.
But what is courage? I think courage to me is doing something even though you don't know how it's gonna turn out. Almost like kind of walking into the lion's mouth, or walking up to a lion that seems like it has its mouth open, and you don't know if it's gonna be friendly or if it's gonna eat you. But you see a reason to go up to that lion. I don't think courage is jumping off of a high cliff for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a reason to jump off the cliff, and it's you have like a path, then that's courage. So if you see a lion and it clearly does not want you to be there, and you go up to it and you put your head in its mouth, you're just stupid. That's not courageous.
Right.
But if you see the lion is hurt and it needs your help, and you have a reasonable thought that I should go help this lion because it's injured, and I think it's gonna be appreciative of me taking this thorn or this trap off his leg, and I'm gonna go do it because I have there's a bigger reason to do it, and you go not knowing what's gonna happen. That's courage to me.
Mm-hmm.
So most of my life I haven't been super courageous. I have to admit. I've always been scared. I've always been scared to do things differently. But I think in the last couple of years, I've kind of really learned a little bit more how to be courageous.
Yeah.
And a big part of it was actually stepping into the ring.
Mm-hmm.
The first couple of times I stepped in the ring.
You mean literally, right?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And the first couple of times, honestly, was not courageous. It was me having an ego, or me being blind and thinking it would just be fun.
Uh-huh.
But by me stepping in again and again and again, knowing how difficult it was and how it wasn't going to be easy, I think that was the first times I really showed courage.
Yeah. My take on that, it's exactly what you're saying, is that you can't be courageous if there's no fear.
Yeah.
You have to have fear, because being courageous is overcoming the fear and acting anyway. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you had fear before, and you said it sounds like maybe it controlled you more. Mm-hmm. But you probably still feel that, but now you know how to handle it and move anyway. I know that's it for me is, like there's a cliff down at the quarry, which is, 35 feet high or something like that.
It's pretty high, yeah.
It's pretty high, yeah. And I've jumped off it a lot of times. I don't know how many. And I've jumped off similar stuff back home where I'm from. And I'm sure the first time, I remember when I was in middle school, the first time I did something like that, it was scarier. But I still feel fear every single time. And it's just kind of a cool exercise. It's like, this is what it feels like, but you just do it anyway. And it's like you said, I know how to swim. I've jumped off it before. I know it's deep. It's all that stuff. I'm not just being stupid and hoping it's more than 5 feet deep. I know it's deep, You're
not drunk doing it.
Yeah,
You're not doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like if you have reason to think you can succeed, but it's still scary, action anyway, that's courage.
And like for the quarry, the benefits of it is it'd be fun. It's a challenge. Yeah. You get to swim in this great nice water. So there are rewards to it as well.
Get a cool picture.
Get a great photo. So I like it. That was a good question.
Yeah. I saw a girl. Okay, so who is courageous was the second part. There was a girl there. I mean, I could come up with some hero that everybody's heard of, but I was at the quarry a few days ago. I took a friend who had never been, and we were just sitting talking up on the top where the highest cliff is, and we were the only ones up there. That place, even when it's crowded, I feel like every time I go, I sit up on top and I'm the only one there. Mm-hmm. So we're just hanging out because the view's great. And this girl, there was a big group of friends swimming, and I noticed one girl walking away from the group, and she came all the way to where we were, and it's like a 1/4-mile walk. And she gets there, walks up and says hi, and I go, yeah, you thinking about jumping? She goes, yeah, have you done it before? And I said, yeah. Are you going to do it? And I said, I don't know, maybe. Is it deep? She was asking all the right questions. I said, yeah, it's deep. It's safe, And I didn't say it, but, if she did hurt herself, I was right there. I could jump in and help her too, right? So she asked a few questions, but the thing I thought was really cool was she didn't come over with a few of her friends. She was with a group of maybe 6 or 8 people. Usually, people come off in 2s or 3s to jump. The few courageous people come over. But she just walked off by herself and climbed up there, and all her friends could see her across the quarry. And we were strangers. We were the only two sitting up there, and she didn't know us. And she said, okay. Oh, she kind of started breathing a little harder because she was thinking about doing it. And she goes, oh. And I just said, this is the hardest part right here, And it's like, once you jump, it's just fun. And she goes, I know. Okay, ready? And then she just did it. And she hesitated for less than 10 seconds. And I was like, that is a courageous person. By herself, she's trusting me that I'm telling her it's deep enough and it's safe and all that. And all her friends are watching. Yeah. So that was cool.
Well, I highly agree. And, jumping off that cliff, I actually remember the last time I did it, I wasn't going to because I think at that time, my this was almost 2 years ago now, my store had just started doing well. Okay. So for the first time in my life, I was like, oh my God, I'm actually making some money now. Like, things are going well. Yeah. I'm in good shape. Like, I shouldn't jump because I have too much to risk now.
Right.
And I, logically started talking my way out of it. And I actually even told all the friends that we were with, I was like, I'm not going to jump today. And don't really question me, because they're like, oh, I'm sure Johnny has reasons. He's like a pretty adventurous guy. He's done it before in the past. He has videos of him doing it. Whatever. He doesn't need to do it. And everyone else started jumping. And then I thought to myself, don't be a little bitch. I know it's safe. Logically, it's safe. Yeah. Why am I talking myself out of it? And I just did it. I just, jumped. And that very moment, of fear, I felt alive.
Yeah.
And as soon as my toes touched the water, and I was screaming the whole time. I was like, it's hot.
Yeah, it is.
I even bit my tongue, which is not good. Oh. So close your mouth. So it is dangerous. There's things you can do.
People have died there.
Yeah, but after jumping, I realized that very moment I was like, you know what? There was a reason to do it again.
Yeah.
It's not even about being courageous or being adventurous or having a cool photo anymore. It's like sometimes you have to prove to yourself.
Yeah, right.
I can overcome this fear.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk my way out of anything.
Yeah. It's just like, the people that they gain courage and discipline and stuff in, like, say, the military, and then it helps them in business. It can, sports help people in other parts of their lives. And yeah, I agree.
But to answer who's courageous, I would say anyone who openly shares their lives. Right now, I'm reading Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, and the things that he admits to and he talks about openly in that book, about his father, about growing up in post-Nazi, Austria, using steroids, doing things to, using psychological tricks to get ahead in bodybuilding. Yeah. These things all took a lot of courage for him to openly share, because first off, we can all learn from it. But second, we all kind of see him a different light now too. But I actually respect him much more now, seeing both sides of him than just seeing the perfect, specimen.
It's true. I agree. It's really, and that's something I've mentioned on other podcasts. If you have heroes that you don't know that much about, go dig into it and read their biographies and, watch documentaries or whatever you can about them. And you'll see that they all have had struggles and overcome things. And to me, it's great, because then if you might have had them up on a pedestal where you think you can never be like them, and they just have this natural greatness that you don't have, talent or whatever, you see how they developed it, and you see how it was hard work, or they got around the right people, and then that can help you realize, I can do great things. Not that everybody has to be a bodybuilding champion, but you see the formula and you realize that you can do things too. It's not just special people. Yeah. So this was a Better Me card, you guys. And again, bettermegame.com. You can go there, and it's a print and play. If you're not a gamer, what that means is you print the board and you print the little player's score pad thing, and the cards are all online for free. So you don't have to cut out 200 cards like Johnny did with Cards Against Humanity. He did that, what, did it take you like 3 hours to cut them all?
It took me way too long.
Yeah, and it was fun to play, but you don't have to do that. It's all online, and you can play this with your friends, your coworkers, your teammates. It's great if you're just getting to know people, but also it's great with people that you think but it'll bring up things that you never talked about.
100%. And I really want to applaud you for going so full force with Better Me, because first off, it's one of those things where for your time and energy spent promoting this game, you could have made so much money doing something else. But I genuinely know that you're doing this because you want this game out there. You want people to enjoy. You want people to to improve their relationships and their lives, really. Right. With this. And I'm rooting for you, and I hope it succeeds. And I really want it to be a household name.
Thank you.
I want it to be a big thing. I want it to be at least as successful as like Robert Kiyosaki's game, Cashflow 101.
Yeah, which partly inspired it.
Yeah,
it's such a cool game. You come away with, you really learn real world skills.
So much from it. And I think that game and Better Me should be in schools.
Yeah,
I really do think so.
Right.
So check it out. It's free, so there's really no reason not to do it. And just play it once.
And soon, if you want the fancy, nice-looking, glossy box version, that we're working on it. We're getting the sample here. We're working with the factory. So within a few months, it'll be available on Amazon. You can get the shiny, fancy box version. And I'll probably keep this free version up, maybe forever. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I appreciate it. And, to be honest, too, Johnny's right. Over the last year, I've spent money on it. I haven't made money. And I've been working on it for a year and putting a lot of time into it. But to be totally transparent, it is also a home run swing for me. Because if it does work, it could be big. Mm-hmm. And it could be, bigger than some of the other things I could have done with my time. So hopefully karma and everything will kick in and, I'll sell 1 million of them.
Yeah, I like it. All right.
So thank you, Johnny. One last time, I'm going to plug all your stuff that I can think of and let me know if I leave anything out. JohnnyFD.com. That's your blog. And I think you post a lot of your YouTube videos there. Mm-hmm. So Johnny's also got a YouTube channel, which you can find through JohnnyFD.com. The 2 books, we've got 12 Weeks in Thailand, was Johnny's first book, which we talked about. Life Changes Quick is his book that just came out a few months ago. Mm-hmm. And that's an interesting one. That's a lot of what we talked about in this podcast, too. Let's see, what else am I free? Oh, Travel Like a Boss podcast, and it's on iTunes and Stitcher. You probably have a link to it at johnnyfd.com, I'm guessing. Anything else you want to mention and plug?
Just go to my blog. By the time this episode's out, I'm going to quietly invite the first members of my membership course. It's called earnestaffiliate.com, which is basically me showing you how I also make money with affiliate marketing. Mm-hmm. And it was one thing that I really didn't even, this is why it was a big thing for me to think, should I release this or not, is it's pretty like affiliate marketing is one of those things where there's 2 sides to it. There's like the crazy part of it, and then there's the really kind of earnest part of it. And that's why I actually called it Earnest Affiliate.
Right.
And I was glad.
Like it's a good URL.
Yeah, thank you. And I was really glad that was available. And I almost thought that was kind of fate.
It's because no other affiliate marketer wanted that name, right?
Yeah, and it's weird because affiliate marketing, for those who don't know, is getting a commission for promoting a product. So if someone buys a product through your link, and it could be any product, it could be a digital product.
Amazon does it.
Yeah. Or it could be a physical product like Amazon. You get credit for it. And I think one of the reasons why there's a bad name for it is because the commissions pay very well sometimes. Sometimes the commissions are like 30 to 50%. Yeah. People will do anything to get you to click that link and buy the product. Right. So someone's trying to promote an antivirus. Sometimes they will go out of the way to make it look like you have a virus, so you'll buy their antivirus. Right. And to me, that's very shady. Yep. Or people promote products that they don't believe in, they don't use, they've never used, just because it pays well, like some kind of like crazy weight loss supplement.
I know a guy, honestly, just in the last few weeks, sorry to hijack it, just started a new program, and he's making several $1,000s a day. Do the math, that's $1 million a year. And it's something where it was a struggle for him because it's like, it's not something I would sell to my family, but I see a lot of potential for income. So Johnny I like the way you're doing it. Yeah. And I didn't mean to hijack you, but you hear a lot of podcasters saying, they have commercials somewhere in their podcast, and they'll say, look, of course I get a commission, like Audible is common, Amazon, a lot of them have affiliate relationships, but they'll say, look, we don't promote anything here that we don't actually use, that I wouldn't tell my friends to buy. Yeah. So, sorry, back to you.
No, I mean, honestly, the only reason why I never wanted to teach it or have it be like a big part of what I do is, to me, it was always kind of like some side income. It was like it was never actually my main source. I still make more today with my actual dropshipping stores than I do promoting dropshipping. Right. And that was kind of like a big question people were having. But I finally came to a point where I'm like, you know what? Why not also make money promoting these things that genuinely work, that
Sure.
really changed my life.
Yeah.
And so what if I eventually make more money through promoting these affiliate offers than I do with my stores that I run? You know, because that doesn't, because with the abundance mentality, that doesn't hinder anyone else from doing well.
Yeah, as long as it's a good product that they're happy with.
Yeah, so that is going to be available today. So
Cool.
it's earnestaffiliate.com, and I'm going to slowly release it. I'm actually probably not even going to tell my audience about it yet.
Okay.
Because I want people to slowly join so I can help kind of help them one-on-one to figure out what they need in the course.
Yeah.
Before I get 1,000 people to sign up, I want people to go through the videos and through the steps, and if they get stuck anywhere, I want to be able to help them and then maybe create more videos before it gets really public released.
I want to say too that if you're listening to this and your affiliate marketing is a new concept to you, or you've heard a little bit about it, one of the advantages of that model is it can be zero overhead.
Yeah.
You literally can post links on your Facebook and Twitter, and that's it. I mean, you don't have to even have a website to do affiliate marketing. A lot of people blog or make videos and things.
My blog is on Blogger, which is free.
Mine too. Actually, OD on Life. Wait, am I mixing? Yeah, it's on Blogger.
Yeah.
And YouTube is free. A lot of people do great with affiliate stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's what I'm saying is if you're just looking for a way to get your feet wet in the online world and make money and be location independent, get involved with that internship we talked about, and then what your thing if you don't have anything to work on in the afternoon, this thing Johnny is talking about, it works. I know a lot of people that have made or are making good money in affiliate marketing.
Yeah, and you know what? Sorry, but you're not going to make $1,000 a day because, especially not in the beginning. I mean, maybe if you really dedicate and scale to it, but you're probably going to make, I would say, starting out a couple $100 a month. And then if you really dedicate to it full time, you grow it. You can replace your 9-to-5 salary. You can make a couple $1,000s from it.
And depending on what you're selling, you can make a couple $100 per sale.
Yeah.
That's not unheard of at all. Like courses and things that are a little higher dollar value. It's a $500 course. You can probably expect to get a couple $100.
Yeah.
Like with the drop shipping deal, Anton's course, I bought it, and then I really liked it and saw value in it, and I told I think 2 friends who bought it, or maybe it was 3. And so I got my money back, basically.
Yeah.
The commission from those 2 sales paid me back for mine.
And what's really cool about it, and I actually talk about it in kind of the niche selection phase, is if there's something that you've always wanted to try, so let's say the drop shipping, or you wanted to try let's say a fitness program, or whatever course it is, how to play piano online, and you're like, I'm not really sure if I'm going to be committed to it, by buying it knowing that you're going to blog about your progress through it, and if it works, not only are you going to be successful at whatever you went out to achieve, but now you can promote it as an affiliate. You have people that have followed your journey, they know it works, they can kind of see your progress through it, you can answer questions, you kind of be an expert in it, and within the first 2 sales, you've made your money back that you've spent on the course.
Yeah.
And then you have a whole new stream of income.
Right. And on top of that, you're learning valuable skills, which is
And you're really helping the world, because other people don't have the time or energy to go through these courses to see if they work.
Yeah.
And
I always think about that with you. You spend a lot of time writing posts. You spend a lot of time in the forums that everybody's not seeing that. That's just in the forum. You put a lot of energy into your posts in there. And it's not everybody's doing it. You're right.
Yeah, and there's I finally figured it out. I'm like, well, how did I do it? And I use myself as a case study. So Earnest Affiliate is basically, right now, it's a case study of everything I've done. And I actually reveal kind of in there just to the members. I don't want everyone in the world knowing all my business, to be honest. I don't want people looking at my bank accounts that don't really know me. But for the course members, I'm like, you know what? Here it is. Here are the 5 things that make me the most money. Here are the other 5 things that make me $50 a month or $100 a month, which is stuff that I would say if I was starting out, I'd be like, you know what?
Yeah.
Give me those. I'm happy.
Sure. Absolutely. It doesn't take much, especially, if you're somewhere like we are. A few $100 a month is a big deal.
Yeah, and you know what? If you are working back in the U.S. and you have a normal job and this is something you want to do on the side, and if you can make let's say $200 a month, you're like, well, if I can make $200 a month, why can I make $1,000?
Right. If I'm making $200 part-time while I still have my other job, I agree. That's actually the position I was in. We talked about that on your podcast. When I first came to Thailand, when I sold my flea market and just took the leap, I got over here and I was making, I think, around like $250 a month on AdSense mostly. And I thought, if I can, I can live off $1,000 a month in Chiang Mai, no problem. I could live off less than that. $1,000's easy. I'm making $250 now, even though the flea market's taken up most of my time. Seems logical that if I get rid of the flea market and go to Thailand and get around other people who are doing it, I should be able to multiply that, and that's what happened. You know, I took that leap, and I did have some savings, so it wasn't like I was just rolling the dice too much. But I had that little bit of savings to where it didn't have to happen overnight. But within like 2 months, it was 10 times. I remember like it went from $250 to like $2,500, and AdSense is a bit of a roller coaster in my world anyway. But so my AdSense is actually lower now, but other things are doing better. You know. Anyway.
But that's and 100%. If you have something that is bringing in money, you can scale it.
Yeah.
And that's actually, I think, the reason why I finally decided to come out this course. I was like, you know what? There's a lot of money in affiliate marketing. Why not focus more time on that? Yeah. I can build a community and help people get to where I am today, which is a couple $1,000s a month in affiliate income.
Right.
And then by having this community, it's going to first off force me to keep learning and be higher level because I'm going to be leading them.
And they're going to have good ideas.
And they're going to have great ideas too. Yeah. And we're going to have we're going to have this new form that we can all help each other out, and we can scale our income together. Yeah. And that's the goal with it.
That's cool. Yeah, and I mean, again, you guys, just to break this down, the easy way, if you've got $5,000 in the bank and some work ethic, you can literally drop everything, come over here like Johnny did, and figure it out. $5,000 to give you, depending on who you are and what you spend, that's almost a year of, that'll buy you a year of time to figure it out. So
100%. So do something, take some kind of action, write down your goals, re-listen to this podcast if you have to. Yeah. 100%. If you were even thinking about becoming a digital nomad or becoming location independent and you're bootstrapping, apply for this internship because it's going to give you 6 months of basically no bills, a community of people, and you're going to be able to work on your businesses in the afternoons, whether you want to start a dropshipping store, you want to join Earnest Affiliate and start building your blog and your brand, literally whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And I promise you, I guarantee that if you make the jump and you have 6 months to commit to something, you will make it work. And it will replace your 9-to-5 income. I promise.
Yep. So anyway, guys, write down what your takeaways were, listen to this again if you need to, and go apply something to your life. You don't have to quit your job and move to Thailand, but take something away from this and apply it. Be a student that actually implements, right? So again, johnnyfd.com. That's kind of the home base for everything Johnny's up to. You can play the game for free at bettermegame.com. And all these episodes will be archived. This one will be up there shortly at odonlife.com. You can even check out details on the mastermind groups that we talked about earlier there. So Johnny, again, overdue, awesome episode. I really appreciate you coming over, and I look forward to seeing you do many more great things in the future.
Thank you, Dan. See you guys.
Take care, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, grab your pen and paper and write down 3 things you're grateful for. This is OD on Life. Come get high with us.